Chris O'Connor here. Join the Curmudgeon Rock Report's invite-only curmudgeonly community at facebook.com/curmudgeonrock. Also look out for a Spotify playlist that pays honor to this episode.
This is the Curmudgeon Rock Report, and this is your podcast made by rock geek iconoclastic outsiders for rock geek iconoclastic outsiders. For those of you who lament that rock music has gone the way of jazz and slipped into niche genre status, we are here to keep that flame alive by providing insight, analysis, recommendations, and honest takes, not hot takes. And hey, there's a good chance you'll learn some rock history you never knew before. In our Saga of Grunge series, we're coming up on the year 1991, the year grunge exploded into mainstream consciousness. Yours truly, Curmudgeons, were right smack in the middle of our high school years. 15 years old, going on 16, ending our sophomore years and beginning our junior years. Chris was a precociously intelligent, outspoken, yet socially awkward misfit and budding music geek navigating the geography of public high school in Syracuse, New York. I was an intellectually curious yet emotionally stunted misfit, also socially awkward and also passionate about music, but transferring from the smothering conservatism of a Catholic high school in mainland Miami to a pretty wild, almost feral, multicultural public high school in Miami Beach. We were just at the right age for something of our generation, of our time, to galvanize us beyond our beloved Beatles and Led Zeppelin. Trust us, everything changed with Nirvana. Not just rock music, but a broader cultural shift seemed to take place. To truly appreciate how monumental this change was, we're going to take a close look at the 8 or 9 months of the year 1991, right before Nirvana's Nevermind came out in September, and see what radio and MTV were like before the landscape-altering alternative rock revolution came. We're going to paint a picture of what that musical landscape looked like by describing the big commercial rock, pop, hip-hop, and electronic hits and singles of this year up to the epochal arrival of Nirvana and grunge into the mainstream radar. So hang back, get ready to blast back into musical nostalgia for the year when the 1990s really took off. Welcome to 1991, the year in music up to Nirvana's breakthrough, and welcome to the Curmudgeon Rock Report.
Yeah, off to the races with this episode. We have the distinction of programming 98 songs, I think it is.
Nice.
For this journey through 1991. So this is going to be a fun romp, probably with a lot of improv and a lot of wise-ass comments, because 91 up until Nirvana hit had its charms, but
there was a lot of crap, too.
But boy, was it wildly inconsistent. It was 91 in the pop world was a strange time. It's like you basically had to be there to believe that some of the shit was actually pretty big. So here we go to the Wayback Machine. However, before we do that, we have to focus on the here and now, and we have to switch over to the other side of the space-time continuum and delve into the parallel universe where good music is still good music and it's still deified. There's such a thing as rock gods and rap gods, and basically music fans, they flock to actual music stores and they spend $15 a pop, $20 a pop on really good rock and roll and really good music, and they pay the tickets to go see them. They can afford the tickets to go see them and actually still afford the t-shirts too, because I understand the t-shirts at concerts are getting up to like $65 and outrageous prices too. So that's a long way of saying we yearn for the more innocent days of, hey, like 1991.
Right.
And
which is what we're doing in this episode.
Yeah, and so this has actually become kind of a trend. the last 3 months don't always choose albums that we're both enthusiastic about. A lot of times I'm tepid on some of his mojo tip picks, and sometimes he likes to take a big ass dookie on my picks. We'll be back to that sometime next month. Well, sometime in the next 3 or 4 episodes, we're gonna have one of those battles. Not on this episode. 2 of the best 13 or 14 albums that I've heard, or 15 albums that are basically 2 high-placing albums on our lists for the year thus far here in July. So let's get this started. Arturo, who are you covering in this episode's edition of the Parallel Universe?
Yes. Hailing from Portland, Oregon, the band Mildred released their debut album, Fence Line, earlier this year. And it's a testament to what the hive mind of 4 dudes living together as roommates can accomplish when they decide to form a band together. They don't live together anymore, but this record clearly sounds like a document of a period in time where 4 talented, artsy, bohemian types find themselves musically at the same time. Overall, it very much evokes the sparse, minimalist, elegant folk rock of Smog, Bill Callahan's 1990s band/project. Unlike Smog, though, the guitar sounds and textures are a bit rougher, allowing for more distortion and moments of, dare I say, grunginess. Lyrically, they aren't as oblique or impressionistic as Smog. Most of the songs are dense philosophical meditations on concepts such as death, the meaning of beauty, and miscommunication, which seems to be like a prevalent theme in the record. Standout tracks: the splendid first 2 tracks, the languid country rock of UPS Brown, and Fish Sticks. Aquinas, based on the writings of St. Thomas Aquinas, is a desolate, yearning thing of beauty. Fleet Week rambles along like a drive-by trucker's outtake, while mumblecore melody floats with an ethereal light like the best Grateful Dead songs. It's already one of my favorite albums of the year, an enthusiastic 4 out of 5 stars.
I got high again. I got high.
Yeah, also a very enthusiastic 4 out of 5 stars. One of those rare instances in rock where democratizing the songwriting and the singing actually works. So, you have 4 guys, they can all write, they can all sing, and they can all play. And yeah. I have to correct you on something. The bio that is up for Mildred on Bandcamp has them as being housemates outside of Oakland, California.
Oh, I thought it was Portland. Huh.
No, they're Berkeley. Okay. So just as granola, they're Portland. Okay. Or excuse me, they're Oakland. Right. I think somewhere either Oakland or Berkeley is where they're stationed. So they're East Bay guys. Right. But anyway, they really have this great ear for melody. They all have this great literal sensibilities as lyricists, and they reach real poignancy. They take, they're able to just sort of capture just sort of like these simple, like deadpan, jokey observations that nevertheless are really profound. I mean, they clearly have a strong vocabulary of influences and knowledge of this kind of folk-ish rock. Pitchfork's review has a really great line in it where it says, quote, Mildred sounds as if the clientele had been weaned on the Byrds until they discovered and slowly became obsessed with Silver Jews.
I can hear that.
Which is kind of true. There's some David Berman
sure.
to these lyrics here, but I think it's more elemental and more simple. They definitely know they're Neil Young. Obviously the guitar solos on Fish Sticks give that away.
Yeah.
They know they're Uncle Tupelo. They know they're Joni Mitchell. Actually, there's some Joni going on there. They know the band, CSN, James Taylor, and so on and so forth. Also, like you said, Bill Callahan is kind of a reference point as well. And then just sort of, just general, that sort of Americana, no depression era sort of, so they can be described as a kind of a hybrid of alt country and orthodox indie rock. I'm also a fan of some of the songs you mentioned. Fish Sticks is really strong. Cobwebs is cool as hell. My favorite song on the album is Pitch Boats. That song is just beautiful, and it just has like the most simple like ode to joy lyrics about enjoying life. And then Fence Line, the solo or the title track is really just powerful. It's just this beautiful melody, and it kind of imagines a conversation between domestic partners of, hey, by the way, I got high last night. I thought you should know. Just to me, that's a really powerful lyric of, yeah, okay, I kind of fucked up. Let's move on. And then the rest of it is just sort of this sort of domestic looking out at and just contemplating the open space on their property. And so it's just really profound. Here's the craziest thing, by the way, about this band. According to their bio, again, on Bandcamp, these guys are all professionals. One is an environmental lawyer. One is an architect. One is a PhD in nuclear physics or astrophysics, one of the two. And then one guy works as an affordable housing advocate. And this album, which they recorded in Echo Park in LA, was their vacation from their jobs. They went down there and they took a week off from their jobs and went and recorded this album. That's a hell of a fun side hustle, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So these guys are not rich, but they're pretty well off. This is easily their side thing, their thing on
this is professional class. It's I mean, it really depends on what kind of environmental lawyer the one dude is if he's working for the bad guys, yeah, he's making a lot of money.
Right.
If he's working for the good guys, maybe not so much. Unless he's in toxic torts, then yeah, maybe he gets some pretty good paydays here and there. But yeah, and they were housemates. I'm not sure if they were anymore, but that's how they kind of started. That they were guys. They were all pushing 40. Excuse me, they were all pushing 30. They were in their late 20s, and then they ended up sharing a house together, and really kind of connected through the music and all of this, and just and it kind of built up this excitement, and they kind of all figured out that together they did something special. And somebody kind of said, okay, now COVID's over. Now you guys should try making an album for real. Yeah. And they really knock it out of the park here.
Yeah.
Great stuff. Speaking of which, knocking it out of the park, let's move on to the most surprising first listen that I have experienced in years. And this is rapper Vince Staples' new album that just came out a couple months ago, Crybaby. So Staples, he's a native of Compton, California, and back in the late 10s, released an awesome little hip-hop record. I call it a little hip-hop record because it's 22 minutes long, that Arturo and I both adore, back in 2018, called FM. He supplemented the album's clever radio station programming theme with some slick, fun, and thoughtful rhymes that he spit with supreme confidence. Staples had been around for a few years at that point, but this seemed like it was his true star-making moment. But then Staples kept disappointing over and over again for about the next 5 years, resorting to a weird mumblecore rapping style and getting too much mileage out of growing up in the hood cliches. His 2022 album, Ramona Park Broke My Heart, was so boring and uninspired that Arturo literally gave up on Staples. That means he missed the first baby steps towards a comeback in the form of 2024's Dark Times. Better than he had been, yes, but Staples still seemed lost in the woods as far as his focus and refining a compelling voice. Well, that was Staples' last album for the famed Def Jam label. We know Def Jam from Run DMC and LL Cool J and all those bands. And apparently the freedom that came with now being an independent artist did wonders for the guy, because goddamn is his new album Crybaby great. Staples being free to recontextualize what hip-hop could mean for him and how he could reestablish an exciting voice within the hip-hop idiom embraces a hybrid of funk, punk, EDM, skateboarder rock, and emo on this album. Staples is practically a singer-songwriter here, working with two tremendous young producers, Mike Hector and Mino Drerup. to create a fuzzed out, borderline psychedelic palette for Staples to share how terrifying and depressing it is for him to be a black man in America in his early 30s. Hector largely employs programming for his beats, while Mino uses live instrumentation. But their vision with Staples is so unified you can hardly tell the difference. So what results is an absorbing and at times jaw-dropping journey through Staples' torn-up psyche. Staples hits us with his inertia immediately, with frenetic album opener Black Marmalade, on which a speak-singing Vince longs for the comfort of his grandmother's cooking on the chorus, while confessing to his crippling paranoia about being shot by white people, perhaps even by a mass shooter, on the verses. For him, being black in the days of Trump equals being a target. It's a deceptively dark little funk rocker to open the proceedings. Staples gets even more emo on the next song, Gorilla, which is the exact opposite of Fuck the Police. Mm-hmm. Here, Staples is in absolute despair over the menacing power that the cops have over him. His sentiment makes the song brutally ironic and satiric as he raps alongside a viciously amped up fuzz bass groove and several women chanting "Go Gorilla" on the tongue decidedly in cheek chorus. Staples isn't an angry black man on this album. He's an exhausted, dispirited, mournful one who really just wants some relief from the pressures of living through a white supremacist fascist nightmare. Elsewhere on Crybaby, he laments media saturation and propaganda on the Little Rocker TV Guide. He also wishes for a return to simpler times of childhood on the hypnotically punkish but emotionally downtrodden Only in America. Here he both loves his country and hates his country equally. It's a really moving song as a result. And he calls out the mindless obedience divisions of holy war dominance on the oddly bluesy album closer, 7 in the Morning. This is the second hip-hop album that we've covered in 2026 that builds itself around the theme of dealing with the Christo-fascism seemingly engulfing the world. Australian Ghanaian artist Genesis Owusu mined similar territory on his great album Red Star Wu and the Worldwide Scourge earlier in the year. Yet Owusu there was rhyming and shouting from something of an elitist perch as he crafts his own rock soul hybrid of a dissection of the bad guys and all the dark forces. Staples, in contrast, is in the middle of the war zone, scared shitless and despondent, and is channeling all that emotion into this thrilling new body of work. To me, it's the better album, and I doubt I'll hear a better hip-hop record the rest of this year. Do yourselves a favor, folks, and go find Vince Staples' Crybaby and prepare for an extraordinarily compelling mindfuck.
Damn, why you gotta be like that? Slam with my hands behind my back. I know my tags are not updated, but I don't think you need that strap. Why can't you just talk to me? My life is...
Yeah, I'm going to reiterate a lot of what you said, actually. And by the way, Vince Staples was born in Compton, but he grew up in Long Beach. So
yeah.
that's like really his home, actually.
Yeah, that's true.
Actually, I'll get to that later. My thing is this. After he produced two of the best hip-hop albums of the 2010s, 15 Summertime 06 and 18's FM, it seemed that the decade of the 20s was going to be a wash for Vince Staples. His previous three albums were absolutely terrible, with stale, dull, moody, mellow, overly ethereal, sad sack beats permeating through songs where the man didn't even rap. He either wallowed in his mumblecore bullshit, or he delved in spoken word diary journal vomit, which I hate. However, Crybaby is his best effort since FM, and it is so by the length of a football field. Yes, he's rapping again, which is good because he's one of the most skilled rappers in the business.
Yeah.
But also, like what you said earlier, Chris, I see a lot of parallels between this album and Genesis Owusu's album of this year, Red Star Wu and the Worldwide Scourge. Like Owusu, Staples essentially tackles indie rock head on and contextualizes it within a hip-hop framework. Lyrically, he isn't as specifically political and as angry as Owusu is on Owusu's record, but Staples does provide scathing socio-political commentary in the form of subversive humor and irony, There's some despair, but it's shrouded in humor and irony. Whereas Owusu can't be bothered with that shit, right? And and like the Owusu album, this is one of the best hip hop albums of the year. I have the Owusu album just slightly ahead of this one, but they're both great.
Yeah, Gorilla is probably my favorite track on that record because one, it has the live bass and the live performance going on, but what it does is it makes like this amp up and like almost supposed to be like sort of an anthemic kind of sing along and almost gleeful sounding music, with that ironic chorus, go Gorilla, and just sort of goofing on the racism of the cops. But basically, then you listen to the lyrics and it's all about how he's scared shitless of the cops. And basically it's just sort of in this despondency, in this despair, in this sort of like, oh fuck, man, like what happens if I get stopped? Is this going to be it? And it just, so coming from there, so there's a lot of juxtaposition between his angst and that sort of, almost like faux sunniness. And in some ways it's like, some of it is like downright psychedelic. Yeah. Like I love Only in America too. Yeah. That just has this weird sort of guitar part and, sort of chanting, singing, and it gets like totally hypnotic. But it's just, like you said, it leads to this subversive looking back. And I loved my childhood, but man, this country's fucked up. And so, and then, TV Guide is funny too, because it's just kind of like, media saturation. And to prove his point, his chorus is quoting Travis Bickle from Taxi Driver. What the fuck are you looking at?
A lot of old references. He makes references to Marlon Brando and Al Pacino. Yep. That's a little before Staples' generation. I'm surprised he goes that deep. Yeah, and it's like it's like old TV that's poisoning his mind. And so it's quirky. But like I said, this album is quirkier. This album is stranger. But I think that this album moves me more than Owusu's record. For whatever reason, it hits me in the feels. And like you said, thank goodness that Staples is rapping again.
Chris here again. We usually end our episodes by inviting you to join our Curmudgeonly community page on Facebook. Well, we're picking up our efforts there. Know people just as passionate as us about rock and roll? Invite them to join in the fun. You don't actually need our permission to do so. Also, expect to see a lot more content up there moving forward. Our mission is to engage you, so darn it, we'll engage you like a fire hose, or maybe like a firehouse if we're going to give love to Gene Simmons. We may also be making a few offers. Want to wear a t-shirt featuring our logo? You may have that opportunity soon. So be a fellow curmudgeon, help us expand our little community, and share your own musings via your own posts. We're at facebook.com/groups/curmudgeonrock.
So, where were we in 1991? Both you and I, Chris, we were 15 going on 16. We were basically freaking nerds, as I explained in the parameter setter. You were living, with your parents. I was living with my mom. My father died when I was really young. I was living in Miami Beach, transitioning from a Catholic school to a public school. And let's talk about our music listening habits. My music listening habits at this point were strictly classic rock. Lots of Led Zeppelin, lots of Beatles, lots of Stones, lots of Who, some Pink Floyd. And when it came to like modern, quote unquote, modern-ish music, it was just U2 and R.E.M. Because everything else on rock radio, modern rock radio, was just shitty, bland, hair metal / glam metal. So that's where I was. Where were you, Chris?
Oh, where was I? So at the beginning of 1991, I'm a sophomore at Nottingham High School in Syracuse, New York. I'm doing the joint custody thing, going back and forth with my folks. And I'm starting to get a sense, I'm learning about rock and roll as I go here. Up until December 1990 kind of changed everything for me because my mother gave me a CD boombox for Christmas.
Nice.
And the first two albums were Hotel California and the White Album. And it kind of built from there. Beforehand, the Beatles, my favorite of all time, Michael Jackson, Thriller, the kind of the U2's Rattle and Hum, or not, and Joshua Tree. And so just kind of disparate stuff. And I was starting to learn those things. I was a huge MTV watcher. And so my musical journeys were kind of a combination of Beatles and U2, my father's vinyl collection, which is where I became a big fan of Blood, Sweat, and Tears. R.I.P. David Clayton Thomas, by the way. He just died a month or two ago. And so at the beginning of that year, I'm starting to learn and pick up the vocabulary. I moved on to Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin. And actually, one of the first songs we're going to talk about was on one of my first dozen CDs. And so I was in a huge learning phase. And again, like I said, I was kind of a lonely kid, too smart for my own good, and kind of living in my own head. And, just kind of surviving. And so as this year went on, because of the introduction to the CD, and also I started working. I worked as a bag boy at a grocery store for a couple years. I started working pretty early in 91 and had my own money, which I promptly wasted on CDs. And so this is my most formative year in terms of learning what was great rock. So I had all the MTV stuff that I was familiar with, some of which I liked, some of which I hated. And, I knew a little bit of old school rap, but man, yeah, it was definitely a learning phase. I didn't have older brothers like you to turn me on to AC/DC and The Who and
Queen and all that stuff.
Yeah, all of that. So I was learning on the fly. So most important year of forming for me what made great rock and great music was 1991.
Yeah, for me, it ended up being 1992 because I caught on a little late, but I eventually did catch on. Okay, so here we go to the meat of this episode, folks. The year in music in 1991 up to the grunge explosion of September, which is when Nirvana came out, Pearl Jam started hitting with 10, and so on and so forth. Now, here are the parameters. Okay, point number one, we're doing it month by month with song placement reflecting what month it was released. So we're going mostly by the release month of the songs. Point number two, a song released in the latter half of, there'll be asterisks given. Some asterisks will be given to a song released in the latter half of 1990 that either took a while to hit the Billboard chart or didn't get its North American release until 91. We have a few songs like that here. And point number three, this reflects airplay on rock radio, R&B/hip hop radio, mainstream pop radio, MTV, and college radio. And college radio thereby reflecting what rock music was popular in the UK at the time. So we're going to be flipping the radio dial between four different formats: rock, R&B, hip hop, mainstream top 40, and college radio. And of course, MTV encapsulated all of this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So it tune that radio dial and, get through the fuzz and get the most solid sound you can out of your FM radio, baby. And hell, if you're adventurous, even your AM radio.
Yeah, sure. For the real pop stuff. All right, here we go. January. We are in the rock station now. We start with George Thorogood with If You Don't Start Drinking. I've never been a fan of Thorogood's generic, unoriginal blues rock. This was a big rock radio hit, and it's just as much a slice of beer commercial schlock then as it is now. Chris?
I love Thorogood. Thorogood just he just cranked out really, really fun blues rock jams that were basically all about drinking and cavorting, and did some great blues covers, and he did some great originals. This is an original, really fun song. According to Wikipedia, Thorogood wrote this with giving it to Tom Waits in mind. Can you imagine?
If you don't start drinking, I'm gonna leave.
Yeah, pretty crazy. So-
All right. Next, still on the rock station, Scorpions, Wind of Change, a power ballad about the fall of the Berlin Wall and communism in East Germany. Who gets to do it? Why, of course, a German metal band. This song represents Scorpions' big crossover mainstream moment. And hey, the song is still a veritable karaoke classic, especially throughout Europe. My take, bland and overly sentimental, but a lot of people love it. Chris?
Yeah, this song was freaking ubiquitous for like an entire year. Heavy rotation on MTV, played on rock stations and the adult contemporary stations too. Easy to hear why. Super accessible, super pretty pop metal, rousing chorus, and really moving vocal performance here from Klaus Meine. And it's about the fall of the Soviet Union, really. And of course, obviously that extends to the fall of the Berlin Wall too. So yeah, I mean, this is, it's got that kind of weird sort of echoing sound to it, but I like it. Just a really good pop metal song.
All right, now we're kind of in between rock radio and top 40 here with Sting all this time. I'm not a huge fan of solo Sting, a little too intellectually pretentious for me, but he has his moments, and his 1991 album, The Soul Cages, is his most personally moving and probably his best album, with him using nautical and maritime themes of endless transition as a way of reconciling with the death of his father. And this is one of his catchiest singles. Chris?
Yeah, actually, I think this is Sting's best single and one of the best songs overall. As I mentioned earlier, one of the first dozen CDs that I bought was the Soul Cages, and I was really huge into it. It just really has this kind of hybrid jazz soul feel to it,
Right.
And some remarkable. I mean, there's like a classical guitar piece in the middle of it that's just really, really beautiful. And this song is just structurally so sound. Like he's just the depth of feeling of it is really, really good and just effortlessly melodic. So yeah, great stuff from Sting.
Next, now we go to the pop dial. We're in the pop radio, and we're going to be here for a little while too.
Yeah.
I think for the rest of this month. Mariah Carey with Someday. We're going to mention Mariah Carey a lot during this episode. Why? Because the woman was fucking everywhere in the early 1990s. Coffee shops, shopping malls, elevators, car radios. Mariah was as ubiquitous a pop star as there ever was. This song has an asterisk because it came out in late 1990 but peaked in early 91. Nice little New Jack swing beat, but not really a great song, like most of her stuff. Chris?
Yeah, I got to give it up for Mariah because she was one of the only pop divas of the past 40 years who actually wrote most of her songs.
She did.
Yeah, girl knew how to crank out hits. Amazing singer, but had a real ear for hooks. And in this song, in this instance, Michael Jackson was clearly a big influence on her. Like this sounds like it could have been tacked on to Bad and actually fit. But and like you mentioned, extremely New Jack swingish. Not actually produced by Teddy Riley. You could have fooled me. And so, it's so New Jackish. You expect Bobby Brown or Keith Sweat to hop in and grab a verse,
Yeah, for sure. Next, still in the pop format, we go with Keith Sweat. I'll give all my love to you. God, I hate slow jam R&B post 1980, and this piece of crap is no exception. Chris?
Yeah, Keith Sweat was the genuine black R&B heartthrob. I just remember, like you and I both went to urban schools, and all of the little black girls and all of the little Hispanic girls, they swooned for Mr. Keith Sweat. He just knew how to do this. And this is, by the way, this one is bona fide New Jack Sweat because I think Teddy Riley was involved in this. But, Keith Sweat, he co-wrote it, so he knew how to do slow jams really well. This one's a terrible slow jam, but Sweat's actually got some decent songs. This is not one of them. But this was a really successful cut for him.
Next, High Five with I Like the Way, in parentheses, the kissing game. Lo and behold, we get teeny bopper R&B. When these kids came out, they got next Jackson 5 hype. But guess what? The Jackson 5 actually had good songs. Chris?
Yeah, this is Teddy Riley's attempt at having a new edition act. Teddy Riley co-wrote this, he produced it, but these guys they sounded like little kids, and they were writing about teeny bopper love, and it's just, it's actually pretty horrific. And yeah, the story of this band is messed up. I mean, you had drug use or drug abuse, you had legal fights because, the main guy, who I think his name was Tony Thompson, he ended up reconvening a high five in the early 2000s without consulting the other four guys, and ended up getting sued. Big battle and lots of payouts and lots of grief. And then Thompson ended up dying of a drug overdose. So kind of a tragic thing, which is kind of funny because it comes from the most saccharine shit imaginable.
Speaking of saccharine, next, Cathy Dennis with Touch Me All Night Long. By the early 1990s, house music had already been well injected into the mainstream, with poppy, watered-down versions of this EDM subgenre spreading everywhere. That 4/4 beat, those piano fills, and this song is as generic as it gets. Chris?
Yeah, actually, Cathy Dennis is really talented. I like this song because it was a cover of like a kind of a hip hop disco hybrid tune from 1984 from a woman named Fonda Ray, which plays like early hip hop because it has those huge 808 drums and robotic synths. But here it gets an earthier but very, very housey treatment, plus some additional lyrics. And, like I said, Cathy Dennis was a good performer. She was a good singer. She knew how to craft a good pop song. How do we know that she knew how to craft a good pop song? Because she kind of became a go-to songwriter for the Starrs starting in the early 2000s. She wrote Can't Get You Out of My Head she wrote Toxic by Britney Spears, and she wrote I Kissed a Girl by Katy Perry. And so she scored some big hits. So, I mad respect for Cathy Dennis.
Next, the KLF with 3 a.m. Eternal live at the SSL. This song was a monster hit, and this is a much more authentic version of house pop than the previous song, or most of the other similar songs on this rundown. It may have to do with the fact that this group was actually British, the birthplace of acid house. Chris?
Yeah, this is like big time acid house, and it's what they call stadium house because the crowd noise is piped in.
Right.
And so they make it sound like it's this big, huge performance, but it's got that KLF is going to rock you refrain, which if you lived through the early 90s, you heard fucking everywhere on commercials, on the radio. That song was just ubiquitous, but it's a cool ass jam though. I'll give it that.
Yeah,
so
sure.
Yeah, definitely. And the weird thing about this song too is that for like 3 or 4 years, the song was the original track was from 1989. And then there were like a dozen remixes that came out over the next 3 years. And this version you're talking about is the one that hit and the one that became the famous one. So, Hey, well-earned journey by the KLF.
Yeah. Next, Amy Grant with Baby Baby. For a woman who's known as a Christian music artist, these lyrics are not very Christian, unless the baby she's referring to is Jesus, which would be kind of creepy. Do you know what else this song isn't? It's not a good song. Nevertheless, this jaunty romp through dire pop cheese was a huge hit. Chris?
Yeah, I mean, this was Amy Grant's big crossover move. And, look, for what it is, it's fine. It's a happy, peppy, hooky, dumb love song. Yeah. And, it can put a smile on your face. But it's really kind of a shame that when we think of Amy Grant, we think of this song and we think of a really cheesy duet that she did with Peter Cetera a couple years before this. But what gets lost on everybody is that she's a legitimately incredible white gospel singer. There's a medley out there on the streaming services of the classic Christian tunes. What a Friend We Have in Jesus, Old Rugged Cross, and How Great Thou Art. And she really just nails it. She's just a really great singer and a really great sort of quite Christian vessel. But yeah, she also had the ability to whip out a cheesy ditty and make a bunch of money, too.
Next, speaking of making a lot of money, this group certainly did. Wilson Phillips with You're in Love. With serious genetic pedigree thanks to the Beach Boys and the Mamas and the Papas, you'd expect at least some kind of artistic validity. Instead, we get insufferable, trite, sentimental, fluffy barf. Chris?
Holy shit, the children of John Phillips and Brian Wilson could harmonize? Duh.
Yeah.
Glenn Ballard wrote this piece of shit. He was an amazing crafter of pop hits, and so he knew what hit. Well, for much better Glenn Ballard output, see Michael Jackson's Man on the Moon.
Yeah.
Man in the Mirror, not Man on the Moon.
That's R.E.M.
Yeah. Man in the Mirror and the Atlantis album, Jagged Little Pill. That's what he's most known for. But this is a decent little slick pop tune. And, Wilson Phillips, two hotties and fat-ass Carney Wilson.
Poor Carney Wilson, whenever they showed them in videos or on stage, the camera never went to Carney. It always ignored her.
Well, yeah, because her sister and China Phillips were fucking hot. So, yeah, but I don't know. But she in the harmonies, Carney had the bass part, and she was really good at it. So, there you go.
Right. Yeah. Next, Chesney Hawkes with The One and Only. This kid was a big star in the UK, whereas in North America, he only had this one hit. Thank God for that, because this is the corniest, most simplistic teen pop of the most toxic variety. I would hate to hear what else he did. Chris?
Yeah, this is teeny bopper shit from a 19-year-old from Britain. One of the hallmarks of this pre-grunge era, I think, that we're kind of establishing, testosterone-free male power pop. Decent white boy soul nugget, but this song can't decide whether it's hair metal or R&B or ABBA type pop. Oddly hard to characterize. Maybe this was meant to play on Pepsi ads. Who knows?
Next, Rick Astley with Cry for Help. Astley was a massive international star toward the end of the 1980s. This was his first salvo of the 1990s, and it is, as expected, a thoroughly mediocre, unremarkable slice of pop gospel. Chris?
Yeah, more testosterone-free male pop. Proof there was life for Mr. Astley after his two-hit wonder status from Never Gonna Give You Up and Together Forever. Astley sounds weirdly like Michael McDonald on this song. Maybe because it's so lame. Dude could sing, though. But his other hits were like way more energetic than this shit.
Yeah. Next, Gloria, and we're going to end January with Gloria Estefan, Coming Out of the Dark. More crappy appropriations of gospel. This time it's from a conservative white Cuban woman. It's bad enough that I spent my teenage years in Miami trapped with a conservative white Cuban woman who tried to ram Christianity down my throat. It's bad enough that I had to endure the same shit on the radio when this fucking song was on 10 times a day. Chris?
Yeah, this song was a huge hit. And yeah, like you said, it's really kind of strange. Gloria Estefan had done all these love songs and these like pseudo disco songs and, the cover of Turn the Beat Around and all that stuff. Yeah. But this is like gospel. I mean, this is like blatant gospel. And so gospel. So kind of funny, within a couple months or in the same month, we get Amy Grant going secular crossover and we have Gloria Estefan praising Christ. And they both went to the top of the charts. Go figure.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
All
Very
right.
strange.
Now we move on to February, and we're still on the pop radio dial, starting with Black Box, Strike It Up. This is some serious Euro trash EDM straight out of Italy. But you know what? This is actually pretty decent. It's hooky, it's incessant, and it's relentlessly upbeat like the best electronic pop should be. Chris?
Yeah, honestly, there was a lot of great dance music that hit the shelves and the airwaves in 91. This is one of those classics. Like you said, Italian pop house music, awesomely danceable and inspiring stuff. And hey, it features vocals from the amazing and perpetually screwed over Martha Wash. Martha Wash was one of the weather girls from It's Raining Men. Right. And there was a period, CNC Music Factory had happened with, and a few other artists where she laid down musical tracks, and then they were released and either unattributed or attributed to somebody else, which was kind of crazy. So poor Martha Wash.
Next, CNC Music Factory with Here We Go, Let's Rock and Roll. This group broke in a gigantic way the previous year with the EDM classic Gonna Make You Sweat. Everybody dance now. Dun, 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 dun. The follow-up single is basically more of the same with snippets of guitar. Rock and roll, get it? They were a one-trick pony, but they did that trick well, especially in this song with that vocal melody hook by the female singer in the group. Chris?
Yeah, this was really good. CNC were Robert Clovellis and David Cole, and they were really strong producers, and Clovellis was the songwriter. Clovellis and Freedom Williams, who was the rapper, really came up with a lot of what they performed, and they were really good. Yeah, one trick pony, but some really awesomely energetic and electrifying pop dance. And here, Zelma Davis actually sings. I mentioned the Martha Wash thing earlier. Everybody Dance Now. She visualizes the singing of Martha Wash. And I think Martha Wash ended up suing the shit out of him and eventually got her royalties for that. But Zelma Davis could actually sing pretty well, too. She was a talent as well. So there you go.
Next, now we go to the rock station. We switch to rock. What do we got? We've got INXS, Bitter Tears. The last single released from the previous year's album, X, this is primo INXS, with them riding that by now trademark rock soul hybrid groove with Michael Hutchence at the peak of his Jim Morrison of the 1980s aura. Chris?
Michael Hutchence was just an incredible rock and roll frontman. I mean, tremendous vocal performance here. And like you said, they just had this awesome ability to meld like rock and roll sensuality with electronic beats and then jazz horns, like the soul horns. Really, really great stuff from them. And they were consistently really good from basically like 1985 all the way through 92.
Yeah.
They were just great.
Yeah. Speaking of great, next, here we go. R.E.M. Losing My Religion. By the beginning of the decade, R.E.M. had already crossed over from being indie/underground darlings to mainstream arena rock and arena rock stars, thanks to the multi-platinum success of their previous two albums, Document and Green. With this song, a perfect construct of majestic folk rock, they were catapulted to an even higher level of superstardom. Rarely has the pop chart of any country been blessed with lyrics of such poetic power and yearning. Chris?
Yeah, no rhyming.
Yeah.
In the entire song, there is not a rhyming verse structure to it at all. And it has to be the catchiest, most hummable, most beautiful pop song that doesn't rhyme.
Yeah.
Like I said, Dylan has a bunch of songs that rarely rhyme. Even his stuff he manages to rhyme, but he has a few rhymeless songs, but they're nowhere near as gorgeous as this. Obviously, song known for this gorgeous music video that was created by the director Tarsim, who was just a real artist. And for me, this song really kind of set up Nirvana's rise later in the year by showing how malleable and exciting the pop form could be. Here, you're getting that mandolin, almost sort of classical treatment to a folk rock song. And so it kind of set that up and like exciting stuff. And so I think that R.E.M's success and sort of differentness in the pop mainstream kind of started to whet appetites here. And I think that's a theme that we're going to see as we go through a lot of these songs.
Well, R.E.M. were college radio darlings in the 1980s. So let's take a quick peek into college radio as we move the dial. What do we have here? We have My Bloody Valentine with To Hear Knows When. It would be another several months before this Irish band would put out their shimmering shoegazer classic album Loveless. But this second single from the upcoming album is the ultimate headphone listening experience. Guitar noise and atonality sculpted into a tapestry of meditative and melodic beauty. Chris?
Yeah, I need to do more research because every time I hear this song, I say to myself, how the hell did Kevin Shields do this?
Yeah.
With all those layers and layers and layers of ethereal electric guitar noise that he just manages to stretch and ooze and practically melt into the wax. Just startlingly beautiful shoegazer. As we've said before, this song and this album, Loveless, single-handedly killed shoegazer because no one was going to reach that holy grail.
Yeah, exactly.
He kind of did it, and it just, again, it's so unusual and so striking, but it's just an oddly gorgeous piece of music.
Yeah, totally. All right, now we're going to end the month of February switching to hip-hop, some hard-hitting hip-hop. Here we got LL Cool J with Mama Said Knock You Out. One of the greatest diss tracks of all time. This song oddly doesn't diss one specific target. Instead, LL is lashing out at all, at the time, new gangster rappers who took turns denigrating the suave ladies' man rapper. Marley Marl's lean, stripped-back beat is the perfect accompaniment for LL Cool J Unleashed. Chris?
Yeah, this song is incredible. This is like one of the best hip-hop songs ever recorded because it's just so nasty. That Marley Marl beat is so much fun with those huge drums, and then with that little vocal sample in the background, that and just letting it ride. And he was in a feud with Kool Moe Dee at the time, and so this was kind of like you said, it was not only knocking out Kool Moe Dee, but it was knocking all of those folks that were ragging on him because again, he made that decision in 1987 to do stuff like I'm in Love and kind of. Yeah. Play up the handsome guy thing. And he has to remind folks that he's just fucking hardcore when he gets going. And so, just nasty, just thrilling stuff from LL in his last truly great song.
Next, Leaders of the New School with Case of the PTA, otherwise known as Busta Rhymes' original group. This is classic early 90s New York hip-hop, replete with tag team rapping, sampled hooks galore, and that booming New Jack Swing beat. Chris?
Yep, it definitely has New Jack Swing to it, but also, it hits, it has this sort of like swinging, it was definitely conscious hip-hop. And you could tell that LONS was inspired by Tribe and by De La. And so they kind of let their freak flag fly a little bit. But I like that style that they had where the kind of the Run DMC thing where they could like jump in on and finish each other's lyrics. And they kind of flow from each other. And then, like you said, this is the introduction to the world of Busta Rhymes. I mean, he has the rasp already, but he's relatively calm on this song. But dude could definitely flow. I mean, he definitely had a talent and had a compelling voice. And, worth noting, by the way, that Leaders of the New School were part of the larger Native Tongues grouping, which included De La and Tribe and Jungle Brothers and Queen Latifah was part of that. So, just good song.
Yeah. Now we slide into the month of March, and we're going to start with rock radio. Here we are with Queensryche, Silent Lucidity. Prog rock should have stayed and died in the 1970s, but that didn't stop bands like Queensryche and Dream Theater to walk those needlessly complex, impenetrable roads to bore real rock fans to death. And there's nothing more boring than this bloated, indulgent piece of crap excuse for a rock single. Chris?
Hey, I don't mind this song. Prog metal meets the wall. Tremendous phony Pink Floyd.
Prog metal hits the wall, more like it.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, tremendous phony Pink Floyd.
Yeah.
Chris DeGarmo plays a lot like David Gilmour. He has this beautiful acoustic strumming in the beginning that really kind of evokes Hey You. And then he has this expressively rendered, really pretty guitar solo in the middle of it. That's the other side of Gilmour. And then you have Jeff Tate, who has this prettier bassy lilt than Waters, but he's basically, as a vocalist, a love child of Waters and Gilmour. It's really, really strange. But yeah, so this is a towering power ballad about the guardian angel that protects us from evil while we dream, or something like that. So yeah, it's a weird song, especially a weird song to hit the top 10, which is like Pink Floyd biting prog metal. Like, shit, that just sounds shitty.
What is not shitty is the next song, The Black Crowes with She Talks to Angels. Simply put, this is one of the greatest rock ballads of all time. The fact that this band had this song in their bag so early in their career is a testament to the underrated greatness of this now legendary group. Chris?
Yeah, the Robinsons could write a song, man. And this is definitely very Eat a Peach Brothers and Sisters era Allman Brothers Band influenced.
Yeah.
They did their own thing. They could write incredible songs. But, it's kind of on a par with like Melissa and some of the other stuff. And it kind of makes sense given that Chuck Leavell was kind of an honorary member of the band for Shake Your Moneymaker, the first album. He's the one that plays the great organ part on this song. That gives it real depth and real feeling. Definitely his finest moment with the Crowes. Also a really solemn tune. I mean, this is just it's really powerful in the sense that it's Robinson expressing his fascination and almost kind of like sad awe about a friend of his in Atlanta that was badly addicted to heroin. Yeah. And so it's like he's in love with this girl, but knows that she's on a tragic trajectory. Yeah. And yeah, it just, but instant lighting arena rock rouser for sure. Yeah, just really, really great stuff. But again, really, really invokes Eat a Peach for me.
Next, Extreme with More Than Words. More than words. There aren't enough words to express how much I song. The most saccharine, schmaltzy, moronic, cringeworthy crap ever written. I'm not giving this track any more attention. Chris?
Yeah, this song's okay, but this was like kind of it's a testament to the power of MTV because the video is really famous. It's basically, the concept is it's shot in black and white, and it's Gary Cherone and Nuno Bettencourt of Extreme breaking off from the rehearsal from the rest of the band and, sitting on their guitar cases and crooning this song together in unison. Like I said, this is a case of a really pretty rock ballad that got way ridiculously overplayed. So by the time 4 months later, you're absolutely sick of this shit.
Yeah.
And so there you go.
Now we switch over to adult contemporary radio, leaning into pop radio. Mark Cohn with Walking in Memphis. I guess this is what middle-aged dad rock sounded like in the early 1990s. At least this is what this song felt like to me. It's well crafted as far as adult contemporary pop goes, but otherwise, blah. Chris?
Yeah, I mean, this is like another hopelessly romantic guy writing a hopelessly romantic anthem. Basically sings about a trip to Memphis he took while on a journey to find his true artistic self, which is a boring-ass concept and kind of shallow. It's like he shares his excitement of like having attended church at Al Green's congregation. Right. But hey, he sings it and plays it with so much gravelly conviction that it works as a radio-friendly piece of soul pop. Worth noting that Cher covered it years later and was way more successful with it.
Wow.
Yep.
Next, Rod Stewart with Rhythm of My Heart. We did an episode a while back about Rod Stewart, ruminating on how great he was early in his career and how he became a shamelessly sellout pop star from the mid-1970s onward. He never really recovered, did he? This isn't as bad as his 1980s output, but it's still a pretty toothless attempt at modern Irish folk music. Chris?
Yeah, this is his best song since Do You Think I'm Sexy in the late 70s. Like his 80s stuff was like Stewart clearly phoning it in and deciding to go with the philosophy money is green. It's hard to believe that he was selling some of the pap that he came out with, during that era. But here he starts to redeem himself. I actually think this is a really good song. This is a nice Celtic folky pop song, and essentially, again, it's Rod coming back from being such a vapid sellout. Interestingly enough, the song is a cover of an '80s hit in Europe from a singer named Renee Schumann. But Rod just possessed it and made it his own, and aren't we glad for it? So yeah, like I said, his couple of early '90s records were much better and much more tolerable, at least.
All right, now we're in the pure pop top 40 radio dial here, or that side of the radio dial. Mariah Carey again. I Don't Want to Cry. More Mariah and more insipid pop barf balladry. The girl could sing, but her people and she herself could have given herself more memorable, soulful songs. Yeesh. Chris?
Well, you got to remember, she either wrote or co-wrote everything.
Yeah.
But this is a genuinely sexy torch song from Mariah. Voice absolutely soars on the chorus. And
the girl could sing. I mean, she had an amazing voice. No
some
doubt.
really powerful shit. Was the song kind of dull? The song wasn't that great, but Mariah she wrote a bland song, but she really sang it with true conviction, which made it really sexy. Anyway.
And finally, we end March with Color Me Bad with I Wanna Sex You Up. More boy band bullshit. This song was inescapable by the summer of '91. I guess they were supposed to fill in the gap left by New Kids on the Block. At least New Kids had a song or two that could make you tap your foot. These guys didn't. Chris?
Yeah. Ooh. Yeah, standout track actually from one of the best soundtracks of all time, New Jack City. Yeah. These guys were a multiracial quartet from Oklahoma. And, they were trying to play Loverboy. Like I said, they were so dolled up, it was funny. Basically, they looked like members of Arsenio Hall's band. It was really ridiculous. Basically, this was New Jack doo-wop. But these guys really knew how to put on essential performance. And, man, even that falsetto from that dude even makes me wet. Damn.
Now we dive into the month of April, and we're going to start on the hip-hop and R&B/urban radio station format. We're going to start with Gang Starr, Lovesick. Gang Starr were known at this time as a legitimate, down-and-dirty, classic New York hip-hop group. Yet, Step Into the Arena, their greatest album, yielded this surprisingly tender confessional love rap. It's emotional instead of sentimental, with Guru imbuing his yearning with streetwise smarts and caution, while DJ Premier provides one of his most supple beats. Chris?
Guru is in search of true love.
Yeah.
And, given that he was one of the smoothest rappers ever, the concept fits his natural aura and charisma as a rapper. And, like I said, he was just really inventive and really confident. He may have been like one of the most confident MCs of all time. Like, to me, like, his confidence even exceeds people like Snoop. Like, he just attacked the beat. He was
a better lyricist than Snoop, that's for sure.
Oh, no shit. Like, him and Primo basically were like co-singer-songwriters in some way, or co-songwriters. Basically, Primo, maybe Guru had a concept and Primo did the beat to match it. And so their stuff was just so awesome. Awesome. Yeah. One of my favorite bands, or one of my favorite hip-hop bands of all time.
Next, Boys to Men with Motown Philly, all in one word. I mentioned that High Five were teeny bopper R&B. Well, Boys to Men were the real deal in that regard. They would go on to have monumental success later in the decade, and this was their first major hit in a long string of them. Chris?
Yeah, this basically was a business card song where they're just kind of introducing, hey, we're four cats from Philly that can really like attack a song, and boy, can we do doo-wop.
Yeah.
And we can do the 4-part harmony. Oh man, it hits me right in the nuts, right in the middle of that song when they do the 4-part harmony on the bridge.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just really, really lovely. I mean, the song itself is kind of corny, but those kids proved that they were on the level of like the Drifters and the Coasters and the Platters.
Yeah, that's what they aspired to be. They aspired to be the 90s version of that. And they were.
Modern day doo-wop. And they were just great.
Yeah. Next, Luther Vandross, Power of Love / Love Power. I mentioned earlier that I hate slow jam R&B. Well, here's the godfather of that shit in full effect. And hey, look at that. It's actually a mid-tempo beat that approximates a house beat, albeit slowed down. Having a great voice doesn't excuse subjecting it to the lamest of watered-down pop drivel, though. Chris?
Yeah, Luther proved that even a dude that was gayer than a jaybird could be a bona fide ladies' man.
Was he gay?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
He never came out during his life, but he was accidentally outed by Patti LaBelle in a documentary. So she got in a lot of trouble for that. But so this song, it combines a Luther original with a cover of a 1968 one-hit wonder tune from a group called the Sand Pebbles, and really seamless transition between the two songs, which is a really neat production trick to make this a unified romantic hit. And Luther could sing his ass off, man. He had that smooth, almost baritone voice. And so, dude was born to be an R&B ladies man. But I agree with you, by the way, this song's boring.
Yeah. He's done much better. And it goes
on too long. It's like a 6.5 minute, just sort of boring croon song.
Yeah. All right, now we're in pure pop. We moved the dial to the pop radio format. We've got Paula Abdul with Rush. When I told you, Chris, about the inclusion of this song in this 1991 rundown, you told me, what the hell was wrong with America back then? Well, that question can be asked with even more conviction now. In any case, I always had a crush on Paula. Fortunately, that crush never extended to her stale, generic pop music. Chris?
Yeah, Paula Abdul was fucking hot. And so this piece of shit stayed at number 1 for 5 consecutive weeks on the Hot 100.
I know.
Which made it the second biggest hit of 1991, actually.
Wow.
This song was living proof, and something we still realize today, that handing over a cornball love song to a hot girl is a tried and true way to hit the top of the pop charts. A little bit of a departure for Abdul. She was a former Lakers girl and choreographer that usually delved into high-octane dance pop. Like, what's the name? Straight Up was the name of that song.
Now tell me, is it gonna be you and me forever?
But even for one of those cornball love songs, this one is just so insipid and lip. Just an icky song. Yeah. Like I said, 5 consecutive weeks at number 1. It's like, what the fuck was wrong with people?
I know. Speaking of that, next, Michael Bolton, Love is a Wonderful Thing. If there is a hell, there's a special place for rapists, pedophiles, serial killers, white supremacists, and sociopathic fascists. In that special place in hell, Michael Bolton's music is playing on repeat. Chris?
Okay. Yeah. Here's a story about this song. And so, it's up-tempo pop soul music. He has this big gravelly voice that really sold him well as hot shit on the mic. As much of a lover man as Luther in his own way. Here's the thing. So the Isley Brothers in the 60s had a song called Love is a Wonderful Thing.
Yeah.
And the Isley Brothers, in their minds, thought there was enough similarity, or, hey, you're ripping off our title, that they sued Michael Bolton and his co-writers and the label for copyright infringement. And they won.
Yeah.
And it was held up in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. Here's the thing, though. It's a crock of shit. Because if you listen to the Isley Brothers song and the Bolton song, they don't sound like each other at all. I mean,
it's the song title. It's just the song title.
Yeah, the Isley song is a much more Motown-like kind of smooth thing, where Bolton is basically sounding like a white guy trying really hard to be romantic. Like, it's closer to like rock and soul Whereas, like, again, Isley's is like a pure Motowny type of thing.
Right.
And so it's just really weird that the jury saw. And what ended up happening is they produced proof that, yeah, Bolton is a serial plagiarizer of the Isley Brothers and is borrowed from them routinely. But not really. This is really dangerous. To me, this case was even worse than the Blurred Lines case with Robin Thicke and Marvin Gaye's family. That one was ridiculous, but this one's 10 times more ridiculous.
Next, Sting with The Soul Cages. The second big single from Sting's The Soul Cages album, the title track, is, in my opinion, actually the better song than the previous single. This is actually an honest-to-goodness rock song with some serious bite in the guitar playing. Chris?
Yeah, this is pretty good. Really soulful stuff from Sting. Gentle vocals with some nasty guitar licks swirling in the mix.
Yeah.
And, really Sting at his most R&B-ish. And, the sax solo after the first chorus really sells that.
Yeah. Next, Londonbeat with I've Been Thinking About You. Now, this single was released in August 1990. That's why it gets an asterisk. By April of 91, it was number one in over 10 countries and would go on to be one of the biggest hits of the whole decade. As far as dance pop goes, this is as infectious as it gets. Leave it to the British or the Europeans to make EDM for the masses that isn't embarrassingly bad. Chris?
Yeah, this song was a massive one-hit wonder success. Yeah. Just a perfect soul pop dance song. Really sensual, really melodic, had a real thump to it. And this song, according to Billboard, received the most radio airplay of any song in 1991.
Wow.
Which really makes sense because it cuts across genres. You could play this on like light rock stations. You could play this on adult contemporary, R&B. I think it even got some play on college rock. And so, given that it was so multi-genre-ic, that's not even a word, but genre-ish, that, it was just huge. And so they never did anything after that, though, like they didn't really have a follow-up hit. So, man, here today, gone tomorrow.
Okay. You know what, Chris? In this rundown, I made a little mistake. I forgot to mention a song that came out in March, but was really big by the end of April, going into May. Roxette with Joyride. This Swedish pop rock band had some monster hits, and this was one of their biggest, hitting number one in several countries around the world, including the US and Canada. What can I say? It's catchy and it kind of rocks. Middle-of-the-road Swedish rock and pop is still better than most middle-of-the-road American rock and pop. Chris?
Yeah, this was some good RMOR shit, The Swedes rock, man. And, Roxette was one of the cooler-looking bands of the very early 90s.
Yeah.
Wicked tall dude in shades and really tall hair next to a hot blonde lady rocking spiky blonde hair and really sharp-looking teeth. But they cranked out some really joyous pop hits, and this is one of their best. Razor-sharp guitar rubbing up against atmospheric keys, propelled by electronic drums. Fun as hell whistling on the bridge, too. Good stuff.
Next, we're going to end our joyride in the pop radio section of the dial with Gerardo with Rico Suave. Again, an asterisk. This came out in December 1990, but its impact was huge by the spring of 91. Gerardo's very first single made him an overnight sensation and a massive star in Latin America. He never replicated the success of this song, but he didn't really need to. As far as phony hip-hop done by a Latino answer to Vanilla Ice goes, this could be worse. Chris?
Yeah, it pretty much was like the Hispanic Vanilla Ice. My only addiction has to do with the female species. I eat them raw like sushi. Enough said.
Yeah, totally. All right, now we're going to end the month of April with a quick peek into college radio. What's going on there? We got this young British band by the name of Blur and a song called There's No Other Way. When Blur first started out, they were a band still looking for their sound, for their niche, for their essence. When their debut album Leisure came out, they managed to score a UK top 10 hit with this track, one clearly riding the coattails of the dance rock pioneered a few years earlier by the Happy Mondays and the Stone Roses. Fun fact, Kurt Cobain was actually a fan of this song. Chris?
Yeah, decent little song. Obviously, this was their way of saying that, yes, they are from Manchester.
When they really weren't. They're from London.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Or they wanted to be from Manchester because very, very Stones Roses, very, very Manchester dance pop in there. But Albert is already definitely establishing his deadpan vocal delivery shtick, and it was going strong early, and Graham Coxon was doing his really crisp riffage here. So this is kind of a preview look into the future, not as acerbic and not as satirical as the next three, the three great albums from 93 to 95 were.
Yeah.
But hey, good early sense that they knew how to write a good pop tune.
Right. Now we move to the month of May in 1991, and we're moving the dial to adult contemporary and the middle point between adult contemporary and rock radio, starting with Richard Thompson, I Feel So Good. You may be wondering why Richard Thompson, the most cultish of British folk rock artists, is mentioned in this rundown. Believe it or not, this song went to number 15 on the US Adult Contemporary chart. That's right, this is the closest thing Thompson ever had to a bona fide hit, one that got moderate radio airplay and even got him an appearance on David Letterman's late night show. And you can find it on YouTube. Chris?
Yeah, and it warms my heart knowing that Thompson had at least a modicum of recognition in the mainstream. Yeah. Right. Because the guy is so damn good. This is his biggest hit in America, as you said, from the album Rumor and Sigh, which is great, which is basically his best album post-breakup with Linda. So this is really jazzed up Celtic folk rock, rousing as hell vocal performance from Thompson, with a really amusing lyrical conceit. Yeah. This is the tale of a misanthropic guy celebrating his release from jail by raising all kinds of hell. I feel so good because I'm out of prison and I get to fuck with people again.
That's Richard Thompson's dark, morose humor on display. Something he was very much known for.
Yeah, pretty much a satire, and not even a satire. It's just sort of like a goofball, like flip the script exercise.
Yeah. Next, Bonnie Raitt with Something to Talk About. The queen of American blues rock had her career revitalized when her 1989 album Nick of Time won the Grammy for Best Album of the Year. Her follow-up to that was this genuine pop single, going all the way to number 5 on the Billboard pop chart. And it's a damn good single, too, oozing with both sensuality and sexuality. Chris?
Yeah, just proves that Don was the ultimate and perfect collaborator for Bonnie Raitt. Really brought out the soul and really brought out the blues, both in Raitt's voice and obviously her slide guitar performances. A really great love song about the maturation of relationships. Maybe the best of those from anyone not named Neil Young.
Yeah. Now we're planting ourselves solidly in rock solid rock radio. And here we have old veterans, Queen with Headlong. Freddie Mercury was dying of AIDS when Queen released Innuendo, their final album of his lifetime. This is one of the singles that was released, and it was a huge hit on rock radio, continuing the North American comeback they started with 1989's The Miracle. And this song rocks balls in a way most commercial bands a generation younger than them couldn't have come up with. Chris?
Yeah, Queen's last great rocker, a tune from the sorely underrated Innuendo album, which I love that album. It just has a lot of flavor and a lot of pizzazz and some stuff that just really rocks. Brian May wrote this, but Freddie Mercury absolutely crushes the vocal performance.
Yeah, like he always did.
Yeah, and it's throwback glam rock, but it's incredible performance from Mercury, considering he was actively in the process of dying of AIDS when he laid this performance down. Basically, he was so sick that when he went in the studio, Like literally, he would give them everything he had, and then basically collapsed.
Yeah.
You know, so he was at the end, or pretty much near the end when he was doing this song. And so that's the other thing that makes that album and songs like this so moving, is that like Freddie Mercury was a grade A central stage performer right up until he perished. He gave everything he had to being that performer. And so, you know, that's one of the reasons I love Freddie Mercury. Just one of my rock heroes.
Yeah. Next, and we're still on rock radio with Primus, with Jerry Was a Race Car Driver. The funk metal band Primus released their major label debut album, Sailing the Seas of Cheese, in May of '91, and this single immediately made an impact on rock radio with one of the freakiest bass lines of all time, augmented by some seriously thrashy interludes. Along with Jane's Addiction's Been Caught Stealing from the previous year, these two songs served as harbingers for the alternative rock revolution to come. Chris?
Yeah, I really did. First time I heard anything from Les Claypool, which I didn't really hear until the next year, but it was truly a what the fuck moment for me.
Yeah.
I'd never heard a bass performance like that wacky, or you know, sort of like, what in the world is this? And it's hard to believe that Claypool, true story, auditioned for Metallica after Cliff Burton died.
Yeah, I know he did.
And so I'm like, hey, you know, just as much of a muso as those guys, but he was in his own orbit. But he could obviously fucking play. If he got an audition with Metallica, he could play.
Yeah, you could play.
And like I said, he's one of the great musos of rock and roll. Bridge of this song just kicks major ass with like I said, that little thrash break there. So it goes from just like this quirky, almost like quirky jazz rock, like amped up funky jazz rock, to just like this absolute like hardcore thrash mosh pit bonanza. Right. So yeah, great stuff.
Next, R.E.M. with Shiny Happy People. Their follow-up single to the massive Losing My Religion was another huge hit, going as far as number 10 on the Billboard pop chart. However, in the long term, this song's obnoxiously peppy tone, cheesy guitar riff, and moronic lyrics did the band's reputation more harm than good. Chris?
Yeah, and that's because nobody understood what they were doing. Basically, this was a satiric take on government propaganda. And, you know, everything is great. Everything's sunny. Everything is rainbows and bunny rabbits shooting out of your asshole. And so if you're going to write that kind of satire, you better be good enough to pull it off.
Yeah.
And so, you know, tremendous vocal performances from both Michael Stipe and the B-52's Kate Pearson.
Right.
And so, you know, we have the world's most acerbic wedding dance floor song of all time. Like, chances are your grandmother grooved to this in the early 90s at a wedding. And yeah. Yep. And it's dream pop of the finest order. I actually really like this song. I think it's a great piece of music. Songwriting by Peter Buck and by Stipe. But again, it's ironic as hell, and that's lost on people.
Right. Now we're going to switch over to college radio. Makes sense. We did R.E.M. Now we're going to real college radio, because R.E.M. were mainstream at this point. And we're going to hear a little bit of Curve with the song Coast is Clear. In the immediate wake of My Bloody Valentine in the late 1980s, a slew of UK bands emerged, copying MBV's shoegazer style. Curve were one of them, but they smartly sidestepped away from that and embraced dance beats and slightly toned down the fuzziness of their guitars to create this killer slice of alternative pop rock. Chris?
Yeah, very British dance poppy, kind of a Britpop forerunner in some ways, because it's kind of short of shoegaze and it's kind of sort of Manchester. Ultimately, I would call it an industrial dance rock. You know, it had like a real, almost metalish edge to it.
Sure, with the guitars, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Next, still on college radio, giving us what's going on in the UK, but this was a big hit in the US too. Susie and the Banshees, Kiss Them For Me. They were already an iconic post-punk band by the beginning of the decade, and Susie Sue herself was a bona fide goth rock icon. However, they surprised a lot of people when they put out this bouncy, dance beat-inflected pop song, becoming a genuine top 30 hit in the US. Chris?
Yeah, like I said, talk about a curveball. I mean, because they released a few of the best post-punk records of the era back in the late '70s, but here it's just pure radio pop,
right?
And it's really catchy and it's really sultry. Turns out Susie Sue's not just a punk, but she can do sexy too.
Yeah, well, she always did, really.
Yeah, in her own way, but this is like bona fide, like sexy time stuff from Susie Sue. So it's weird, and it's kind of strange to me. I do remember this song, but my memory wants to place it in like 1988 or 1989.
Yeah,
because this was the first time they ever hit MTV, and this was in heavy ass rotation on MTV. But for whatever reason, I always thought it was late 80s.
Yeah.
I was surprised that it ended up being
91.
91. Yeah.
Right. Now we're going to jump all the way to the hip hop side of the radio station dial. And we're going to have DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince with Summertime. Before Will Smith was a massive movie star, he was a huge TV star on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Before that, he was a hip hop star. And this is one of the duo's biggest hits. It's okay, a nice, polite, safe rap song for the basic normie masses that makes them feel cool for listening to hip hop. Chris?
Yeah, I think the song's a little bit better than that. I think it's one of Will Smith's cooler and more laid back vocal deliveries on a song.
Yeah.
The beat is really surprising to me because it was done by a couple of guys from Chicago.
Right.
That just happened to catch Smith and Jazzy Jeff's ear, and really fun. If you listen to it, it really kind of portends Dr. Dre's G-Funk revolution that hit the airwaves a year and a half later. It has a lot of the same kind of keyboard, like that sort of like that high pitched keyboard looping thing going on, and it has that kind of breeziness to it that a lot of the G-Funk stuff did. So I think it's a more important song than people realize because of that.
Next, KMD with Who, Me? This wasn't a crossover hit, but rather a moderate R&B hip-hop radio hit. It deserved to be more of one, though, for this group was unique among others at the time for tackling racism and black empowerment issues in a humorous, comedic manner. It's also funky as shit. Chris?
Yeah, give it up for my man, Bert.
Yeah.
Really weird sampling of Bert from Sesame Street in a couple of spots. So, yeah, really chill track from these guys who are from Long Island. And, they were definitely surfing the boho wave coming out of the New York area during this era, from De La Soul and Tribe Called Quest and others. Really kind of the same kind of vibes here. Nice little guitar lick, bass heavy, orthodox conscious hip hop. And like I said, those hilarious samples of Bert at the end of the song, which is just a genuinely oddball touch that kind of makes this a smile inducer as much as a thought provoker.
Right. Now, before we go to the pop side of the pop radio station, let's do another quick dip into college radio to hear a glimpse of a new pioneering sound in the form of Massive Attack and their single Safe from Harm. Massive Attack were pioneers of trip-hop, the subgenre of EDM that was steeped in dub reggae and hip-hop. This soulful single and the album it came from, Blue Lines, were huge hits for them in the UK and opened the gates for others to follow through. Portishead, Sneaker Pimps, the group's own Tricky to have a solo career, etc., etc. Chris?
Yeah, this is just incredible stuff. I mean, opening track from Blue Lines, which is one of the best albums of the 90s. They essentially invented trip-hop with this song. Really groovy and intense simultaneously, and just that incredible sampled and enhanced bass line. Yeah. Just utterly hypnotic stuff. And so it's like this psychedelic hip hop with like R&B singing on the top of it. And again, it portended the rise of the Portisheads and other bands over the course of the next 10 years. Important stuff.
Right. Now we're in pop radio, and we get Roxette again. This one is Fading Like a Flower, and in parentheses, Every Time You Leave. Roxette had a pattern with their singles in which they alternated rockers with ballads. After the rockin' success of Joyride, this was more of a mid-tempo song, and while it was a sizable hit because anything Roxette did was successful at this point, it's actually a minor work for them and hasn't aged as well as their other big songs. Chris?
Yeah, that's true. It's been left in the dustbin, but it is a power ballad on Loan from Heaven. Marie Fredriksson, who's again is the hot blonde with the weird teeth, she was a hell of a good rock singer. In a lot of ways, at her best, she's on par with Pat Benatar and Ann Wilson. Yeah. Makes you wonder why she just didn't sing everything for that band.
I know, right?
Like I said, she was a star. The band was really good, but she was a star when she was allowed to take her star turns. Really, really good.
And we end the month of May in pop with Rhythm Syndicate in Passion. This R&B EDM hybrid track was a monster hit in the summer of 91, and I guess I can see why due to its catchy chorus. But otherwise, it's mindless, generic/cliche pop with some pretty inane lyrics. Chris?
Yeah, this is some wonderfully great phony Prince. Closer as anyone can come, about as close as anyone can come to approaching Prince's sultriness. And it's just kind of a hot, up-tempo R&B song. But yeah, not the greatest thing ever. It's an enjoyable little pop slice. And again, phony Prince was a thing starting in the late 80s. And these guys were better at phony Prince than just about anybody else. So there you go.
On this episode, we ran down the year in rock in 1991, right up to the mainstream arrival of Nirvana and the grunge alternative revolution they kickstarted. For the next episode, we're going back to our Saga of Grunge series to bring you guessed it, the year 1991. This is year zero for grunge's injection into the mainstream masses, and there's obviously Nirvana's classic Nevermind. But the subgenre also ushered in brilliant and era-defining records by Pearl Jam and Soundgarden, as well as seminal releases by other Seattle stalwarts such as Mudhoney and the Melvins. It was such a great year that grunge-adjacent bands also made their mark in the form of Smashing Pumpkins' debut, Dinosaur Jr.'s major label debut, and the final album for a long, long time by the Pixies. Join us next time as the Curmudgeon Rock Report brings you the Saga of Grunge Part 5, 1991. So now we're in the month of June of 1991 music and what's on the radio in rock, R&B, and hip-hop, college radio, pop top 40 format, and of course MTV. So let's start in June. We've got, and we're going to be on the hip-hop side for a little while here, we've got Compton's Most Wanted with Growing Up in the Hood. In a post-NWA hip-hop landscape, it's easy to see how much gangsta rap had grown and become prevalent. This track is emblematic of that shift, and it was a big rap radio hit. With a beat that subtly shifts and changes throughout, gangsta rap's nihilism and angry MO are up front and center here. Chris?
Yeah, but it's also a compelling little banger. Decent piece of music and some decent rapping performances. MC8 was part of this group, and he should have been a much bigger deal than he was. He was just a really talented rapper and writer. And so, he kind of stayed he stayed kind of mid-level. He released albums over a course of 20 years, but he never really became the star I think he should have. Cool thing about this song is it does mix in vocal samples from Ice Cube and KRS-One that steep it in the tradition. And also in some ways, it was a forerunner to G-Funk, the song. It's more minimalist, but still really funky. So, yeah, a harbinger of things to come.
Next, Cypress Hill with How I Could Just Kill a Man. This Latino, Mexican, Chicano answer to gangster rap was never far behind, and Cypress Hill's self-titled debut record was pioneering in showing how much of a Spanish-speaking audience hip-hop actually had. This single goes beyond bravado and inches near sociopathy with its anti-establishment sentiment. And it's funky as hell, too. Chris?
Yeah, this song is just awesome and also chilling.
Yeah.
DJ Muggs was a musical genius for coming up with this flavor of electro soul to back up the real psycho rhymes of Be Real and Sendog. This is just one of the most psychedelic and, let's face it, green-tested beats in the history of hip-hop. You know, listening to that first Cypress Hill album when you're stoned is an experience. It makes it feel like it goes on for 3 hours. Be Real's nasal delivery in its original form was actually truly gripping and kind of terrifying. Yeah. Dude makes you believe he really is that dangerous on these songs, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Now we're going to move into that little middle area between R&B and pop radio. And we're going to start with C+C Music Factory, Things That Make You Go. Younger listeners to this podcast may not realize how big Arsenio Hall was in the late 1980s, early 1990s. His primetime talk show was required viewing for those seeking an alternative to the old white guy humor of Johnny Carson and the snide, middle-aged white guy humor of David Letterman. He had a segment on his show where he would run down funny scenarios and deliver this catchphrase. Enter C+C Music Factory with their third major hit, using Hall's catchphrase as the chorus to a song that only deviates in the slightest way from their by now formulaic sound.
Yeah, goofball song from Clovellis and Cole here. Still cool as hell and downright funky, though. Clovellis and Freedom Williams, again, wrote some really great rock songs together. Again, goofy, but a lot of fun.
Next, Seal with Crazy, and it gets an asterisk. While released in November 1990 and becoming a big hit throughout the UK and Europe, it didn't get its North American official release until June, eventually hitting the top 10. Of all the tracks that merge R&B and soul with the house music rhythms of EDM, this is by far the best and most effective, given depth by Seal's warm, soulful voice. Chris?
Yeah, ridiculously tall dude with facial scars who won the heart of Heidi Klum. This guy was doing something truly right. He sold romance by the bundle with moody but soulful R&B tunes like this one. Dude had a truly exotic, rich voice. He really was a great conveyor of romance. And
so was.
Just kind of a really talented dude. But yeah, he just, he had that like ridiculously exotic look in the sense that, I guess there was handsomeness in there somewhere, but he had, I guess they were like acne scars.
Yeah, I think they were.
Yeah, that really left this distinct look, kind of like if the Elephant Man became like Casanova.
That's a bit steep.
Yeah.
Anyway, next, High Five with I Can't Wait Another Minute. Teeny bopper R&B is back, and it isn't any better than the last one. Chris?
Yeah, a slow jam. Teen love of the puppiest kind pulses through these dudes' vein. Prom music supreme right here. And that's all we need to say about this.
Yeah, totally. Now we get some good stuff in the R&B and pop format. Prince with Get Off with 2 T's. Coming off the wild commercial success of the soundtrack for the 1989 movie Batman, the Purple One uncharacteristically took some time before his next move. The first single off the album that would be Diamonds and Pearls, Get Off is a storming beast that incorporates by now fashionable hip-hop new jack rhythms to create one of the funkiest singles he ever put out. Chris?
23 positions in a one-night stand.
Yeah.
Yeah, great fucking song. Probably Prince's best single after Sign of the Times. This was Prince's unveiling of the new power generation.
Yes.
Which, was less of a rock band and more of a R&B soul funk band than the Revolution was. This song is just a pure sex romp. Deep-ass bass groove, harem-worthy flutes, and hey, man, Prince raps. And he raps well. Yeah. Great stuff.
Next, Lenny Kravitz with It Ain't Over Till It's Over. Kravitz had garnered a nifty little career for himself for the past several years, writing songs for others, namely co-writing Madonna's Justify My Love. His breakout as a proper solo artist is here, a wonderfully retro slice of early 1970s Philly soul with a then modern sound that served as perfect summer background music. Chris?
Yeah. Basically, this is Lenny Kravitz's blatant tribute to Earth, Wind, and Fire. Basically, his own take on That's the Way of the World.
Yeah.
Total throwback to mid-70s radio R&B romance. But Lenny does get the aesthetic right. He could do throwback black rock with the best of them. And then, 10 years later, remember he had that song that you said was like a hybrid of Bryan Adams and Journey?
Yeah.
That was so terrible. And then after a while, okay, so I'm not as inspired musically anymore. So I'm going to have my album just sell me as like this really, really hot middle-aged guy. And that was the marketing. And it worked because, my ex-girlfriend Sheila from 20-something years ago thought he was like the hottest guy ever. So there you go.
Next, Amy. Now we're in the pure pop format for a couple of songs. In pop radio, we got Amy Grant again with Every Heartbeat. Remember that special place in hell I mentioned that plays Michael Bolton on repeat? Grant is the female counterpart to that. Chris?
Yeah, more corny crossover, aw shucks, lovey-dovey performance from Amy Grant. Corny as hell, but also definitely pretty earwormy. I have to admit, like, Grant's pop stuff, for as weird as kind of silly as it was, had a real charm to it, again, and it's a damn shame because she's, again, really talented white gospel singer. And, just like her Christian stuff is really good. Like her and like Michael W. Smith were kind of the pioneers of what's now known as contemporary Christian music, which, again, I listen to some of that stuff in the car sometimes just to get a dose of the spirituality. But I often have to turn it off because 75% of the songs are fucking terrible. And not only that, but they're amazingly me-centric. It's not as much about worship as it is about, oh, I was such a mess, and thank God for Jesus because now I'm tolerable. Yeah. Very strange.
Just barely.
Yep.
Next, Bryan Adams with Everything I Do It For You. How can anyone not know this song? In the summer of 91, one could not go an entire day without hearing this song at least 10 times, whether on radio and TV, in shopping malls, coffee shops, department stores, etc. It's the ballad of all ballads, and its inclusion in Kevin Costner's Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, made Adams millions of dollars. Chris?
Yeah. From the Robin Hood soundtrack of all places is this song. This is just a Bryan Adams song done at scale.
Yeah.
Just a really thirsty romance power ballad that reaches for the stars and actually grabs them. Huge hit.
My God, was it huge?
Yeah, this was the biggest hit of 1991 by far. And, like I said, Adams had been doing the same thing since 1984. But like you said, I think the Robin, soundtracks were still a big deal back then.
Yeah, they were.
So, the association with Costner and Robin Hood and all of that kind of gave Adams a heightened platform to do the, like I said, this is like he had a slow jam from 1985 called Heaven. And this comes from the same well as that, but it just got a lot more ears and a lot more eyeballs. Right. So more power to Bryan Adams.
Now we switch over to college radio for a few songs to get the saccharine taste of Bryan Adams ballads out of my mouth.
Yeah, I was going to say, got to get rid of that aftertaste.
Got to get rid of that. So we're going to start off with My Life with the Thrill Kill Cult. Sexplosion with an exclamation point. Over the years, this group has been tagged as industrial electronica or industrial electronic rock, but these guys were a far cry from Skinny Puppy or Nine Inch Nails. This is just edgy alternative dance pop that's as infectious as it is groovy, earning its status as a major club hit. Chris?
Yeah, so is this sleazy camp or is it campy sleaze?
Both.
Fun-ass song. sits in this perfect pocket between funk and acid house. Bona fide novelty song, samples the Bond theme to wonderful effect.
Yes.
So really, really clever stuff from this band. And I love that title, Sexplosion. Amazing that nobody ever stole that for like a mainstream movie. Or look, I'm sure somewhere, if you did the research, some like porn producer said, you know what? That's a great fucking name for a series. And he went on to make like Sexplosion 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And probably like Randy West probably was in 10 of them.
All right. Next, big audio dynamite with Rush. After the demise of The Clash, Mick Jones formed this group in the mid-1980s to be an outlet for his brand of hyper-eclectic pop rock. This was the group's biggest hit, using the cut-up, mix-and-match techniques of hip-hop sampling in a dance rock context. A keyboard sample from The Who, an organ sample from Deep Purple, a drum break from Tommy Roe, guitar breaks from Pigmeat Markham, and a vocal sample from a Peter Sellers comedy album continue to combine to create a dizzying, kaleidoscopic swirl. Great song. Chris?
Yeah, awesome song. I loved this song back in the day. It's just like one of the more naturally rocking, like sing-song tunes ever from British rock. I mean, this is like Mick Jones at the height of his powers. Just brilliant melding of punk energy and house rhythms. Deliciously groovy. And like you said, you mentioned it, amazingly well-placed sample of Baba O'Reilly in the middle of the song and on the bridge. The long version has this weird dub reggae curveball in the middle of it before building back up into the main song. So it's kind of it's a like you suggested, just a wild ass fun as shit ride. And Rush is a great song for a song like this. Yeah, love it.
All right. Next, Primal Scream again with Higher Than the Sun. The band's 1991 album Screamadelica was a landmark album in the UK, where acid house culture and the driving rhythms of both techno and house were merged with soulful 1970s rock to create a new kind of psychedelia. This hypnotic, narcotic, dub reggae-infused track aligned neatly with the subgenre of trip-hop, which was emerging at the time. Chris?
Oh, yeah. These guys were definitely higher than the sun when they recorded this song. Another pioneering trip-hop song coming from the UK in the first half of 1991. A real sexy time slinker. Psychedelic house rock, basically, but really inventive and really like thrilling in some respects from this group taking a real risk here in splicing genres.
For sure. Okay, coming up next, now we move the dial on the radio to rock. We're going to be in rock for the rest of June. And we're going to start with Tom Petty, Learning to Fly. Tom Petty's 1989 album Full Moon Fever was one of the biggest hits of his career. So he brought ELO's Jeff Lynne back as producer to this time make a whole album with Petty's band, The Heartbreakers. The lead single was one of the definitive rock hits of the summer and one of the most cherished songs in Petty's catalog. A shimmering folk rock beauty that manages to outdo Petty's heroes, the Byrds, for sublime beauty. Fun fact, Kurt Weill has gone on record saying this is his all-time favorite song. Chris?
Yeah, I could see why. Jeff Lynne was a great producer for Petty. Really brought out the muscle in his rhythms and the beauty of his melodies. Just perfectly engineered stuff from Lynne. And this, like I said, this is one of Petty's best ever singles. Just a clean, catchy as hell banger. And certainly this song was way better than the Pink Floyd song of the same title.
I agree. All right. Next, Van Halen with Pound Cake. In a time when rock videos were sexualizing and glamorizing young, slim women, Van Halen singer and at the time lyricist Sammy Hagar took a different tack. Write a song about how sexy, older, heavy-set women are. This heavy-ass rocker was ubiquitous on rock radio in the summer of '91, and for my money, it remains the best song of Van Halen's Hagar era. Chris?
Yeah, it reminds me of that Kid Rock lyric, I don't like small cars or real big women, but somehow I always find myself in them. But yeah, definitely the rockingness of the Hagar era Van Halen singles. Maybe not the best. I think I'd still go with Dreams for that. But here you have Alex Van Halen pounding the hell out of the drums on this song. And you have Eddie's guitar tone is the other star here. I mean, it's not really like a solo, like a virtuosic guitar song.
Yeah. It's a weird solo.
But at this point, he had this custom built guitar that just had this just incredible tone to it. It just almost had like a natural screech and shout to it, and it just sounds heavy and blisteringly hot. And so, yeah, and like I said, Sammy Hagar had his own kind of flavor. He wasn't nearly as goofy as David Lee Roth, but he still had a measure of shtick to him.
Yeah, for sure. Next, Firehouse with Love of a Lifetime. This is the tail end of glam metal, so obviously this is the tail end of insufferable metal power ballads. And this one is one of the absolute worst. Yuck. Chris?
God damn, this song is terrible. I thought it was terrible back then. I mean, these guys made White Lion sound like Black Sabbath. Like you said, yuck. Forget about testosterone free. Give these guys some estrogen, because that's how pussy ass they sounded, man.
God, horrible. Next, Skid Row with Monkey Business. Speaking of glam metal coming to an end, or its end, one of the subgenre's worst exponents emerged in 1991 with a slightly heavier sound and less makeup and less hairspray. It's admirable that they tried to tone down their look, but them being heavier and less pretty just means that their weaknesses as a derivative metal band with derivative riffs and dopey lyrics, and an even dopier frontman, become more prominent. Chris?
Yeah, surprisingly heavily and muscular and tough sounding song. Skid Row, to their credit, seemed to anticipate the fall of LA hair metal, and they seemed to know what was coming. So this is their bid to go full on actual metal. Right. People don't, forget that they actually were from New Jersey, and here they sound like it. Nothing glossy about it. It's actually it's a little bit bluesy. And so, so they were making a pivot, which was admirable. They were still dumb, but at least it was admirable.
Next, Metallica with Enter Sandman. With 1988's album And Justice for All and the epic single One, Metallica crossed over to arena headline status, exchanging the complex prog metal song constructions of the previous record for a leaner, meaner, groove metal-oriented sound on their self-titled album of 91. It resulted in quite simply one of the single greatest songs in heavy metal history, an all-time classic that even hit the top 20 of the Billboard pop chart. Chris?
Yeah, perfect rock song. And it actually comes from, you mentioned And Justice for All. That was an album that they actually struggled to play live because of all the complexity. So they're like, fuck it. What if we just did like a one riff monster song? Like, what if we just did a whole bunch of one riff songs? Right. And it's perfect. And so, just Kirk Hammett came up with that riff, which is just awesome. The song just sounds absolutely colossal. Like that opening rhythm guitar part from James Hetfield, and then getting into the bass heavy. Bob Rock finally caught the power of this band that they could generate live, and he captured it on a studio album. Right. And so, again, simple, relatable concept, facing and defeating nightmares and other weird dreams. And just, again, rocks. I mean, every classic rock station in America still plays this song 15 times a day.
Sure. Yeah. And we end the month of June with Guns N' Roses, You Could Be Mine. A year earlier, the first appearance of the results of the long, arduous Use Your Illusion sessions, the epic, powerful anti-war anthem Civil War, came out on a benefit album for Romanian orphans. A second song would emerge as part of the soundtrack to the iconic Arnold Schwarzenegger sci-fi action film Terminator 2, and the Down and Dirty You Could Be Mine was indeed one of the most ubiquitous rock songs of the summer of 91. There is a lot about the Use Your Illusion albums that can be criticized, but the 1-2 punch of those songs, Civil War and this one, is pretty impressive. Chris?
Yeah, this is probably the best song from the Use Your Illusion albums.
Yeah.
Super intense, but super melodic.
Yeah.
Really incredible guitar shit from Slash on this song. And, like you said, it was using the Terminator 2 soundtrack, and so it hit the airwaves months before the albums came out. Worth noting that this was their first single that featured Matt Sorum from The Cult on drums in replacing Steven Adler. Adler... Last song he ever drummed for Guns N' Roses was Civil War, which, again, I kind of think that those are the two best songs on the Use Your Illusion albums.
I agree.
Civil War and You Could Be Mine. So, yeah, Guns N' Roses was still a great band at this point.
All right, now we're in the month of July. The summer is hot in 1991, and we're going to start in the pop radio station. And we're starting with, unfortunately, Michael Bolton. Time, Love, and Tenderness. The gates to the bowels of hell open again, and they give us this unholy piece of MOR shit. Chris?
Yeah. Written by the queen of MOR shit, Diane Warren.
Of course.
And one of the most boring pop hits she actually generated. But again, yeah, this was a big hit on adult contemporary that summer. Mom's preferred radio station in New York, Y94, which was kind of a adult contemporary mix of 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s kind of station. They played the song all the fucking time. So, like, anytime I was in the car with Mom for, like, several months, this fucking song came on.
Ooh. All right, next. Paula Abdul with The Promise of a New Day. Paula's back, and she's sexy again, with a track that's heavily bolstered by a skanky New Jack rhythm and hippy-dippy lyrics about a new day coming. A little better than usual for her. Chris?
Yeah, and she looked smoking fucking hot in the video, too.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, like slinking in a waterfall, I think, at one point, if memory serves. Yeah. So she leaves Rush Rush behind and gets back to her natural dance groove fit here. Again, more proof that you could lead a super hot girl to the pop chart success with the right production touch and selection of songs. Abdul could dance, and she was just absolutely beautiful, but even Britney Spears was a better singer than her.
Yeah.
Yeesh.
All right. Next, Color Me Bad, again, with I Adore Mi Amor. God, this is painful. Insipid, formulaic, pretty boy pop for basic normies and the most casual of music fans, and I use that term loosely. Chris?
Yeah, more sexy time from these suave cats from Oklahoma. This song is so dumb, but nevertheless is a pretty fun slow jam. And hey, these cats even knew their Spanish, man.
Yeah, they rapped in Spanish for sure.
Yeah.
Next, the immortal Right Said Fred with I'm Too Sexy. I am secure enough in my heterosexuality to admit that this is one of my favorite pop songs of the 1990s. It's campy, it's tongue-in-cheek, it's hokey, it's fun, and it's irresistibly catchy. It was also, obviously, a worldwide smash hit. Chris?
Yeah, awesome bass line on this song, and I love the vocal delivery from the one guy, the kind of the speak sing. Ridiculously fun song, so campy and just so unapologetically gay.
Yeah.
But hey, catchy shit. Dude, Jim J. Bullock must have jerked off to this song quite a bit. That's how gay it is.
Next, EMF with You're Unbelievable. This gets an asterisk because it was released as a single in October of 1990, became a massive hit in the late fall and early winter of that year, but it didn't catch on to the rest of the world until the spring of 91. Remember, EMF are from the UK. And when it was released in the spring of 91, it eventually hit number one stateside in July. You have to imagine that indie rock dance music hybrid pioneers like the Stone Roses and Happy Mondays must have been irked to see groups like Jesus Jones and EMF have much bigger success with styles that those former bands practically invented. Chris?
Yeah, this is kind of a Stone Roses ripoff, but great dance song anyway. Great dance rock song, truly anthemic. Really just a captivating, kick-ass song. Slow burn of a run to the American charts, like you said, huge hit in the fall UK, but it actually spent a week at number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100. In the summer, it was like, it wasn't until late that it hit, and for 1 week was the number 1 song in America. So that's quite an accomplishment.
And now we move the radio dial to hip-hop radio. We're going to get some hip-hop, and we've got Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch with Good Vibrations. Yes, folks, before Mark Wahlberg was a big-name Hollywood actor, he was a rapper and dancer by the name of Marky Mark, and he had a huge hit with a hip-hop song based on a very solid house music beat and a video where he obsessively showed off his muscles and his abs. It's not really a good song, but it's charming in a kitschy kind of way. Chris?
Yeah, like you said, it is charming and kitschy. But hey, nepotism at its finest. Donnie Wahlberg's musclehead dude bro little brother gets his own musical thing. It's a good thing that a couple of folks saw an actor in here, because they spared us from years of genuinely dumb pop hip-hop.
No shit.
Fast forward 6 years, and there he is Dirk Diggler.
In the
Thank
movie
goodness.
Boogie Nights. Yes.
Yeah, incredible performance, by the way. You know, everybody speculates, like, what if DiCaprio was in that? It wouldn't have been as good. Mark Wahlberg was perfect for that role, and he played it so well. Like, just this sort of, just this dumb guy with a soul.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. Speaking of soul, next, leaders of the new school with Sob Story, Sob with 2 B's. Busta Rhymes and his crew are back with a lean, mean, minimal groove, and the rappers going back and forth about the ups and downs of living in the hood. I actually prefer this track to Case of the PTA. Chris?
Yeah, I do too. And it's kind of weird because they kind of do their own spin on jazzy hip-hop in a way, because it starts with this wild bebop sample and then settles into this really smooth jam posse cut. Yeah. Here again, Busta is understated, but still nasty on his verse. Even without the silly histrionics, he could rap with the best of them. He clearly was the star of this group.
Yeah, no, for sure. And finally, we end the month of July with the Ghetto Boys with Mind Playing Tricks on Me. Houston's hip-hop scene has always flown under the radar, and this brilliant track is gangster rap done as a cautionary tale, with the violence rapped about not as a source of glorification, but as a necessity for self-preservation. The mental anguish and exhaustion of gangster life is described in vivid, harrowing detail, with references to post-traumatic stress disorder and paranoia and suicidal thoughts. Producer Scarface lends the track a lilting, crisp bounce, one of the greatest and most definitive hip-hop songs of the decade. Chris?
Yeah, just an incredible piece of music. Super soulful and damn near emo hip-hop. Yeah. I mean, it's basically an ode to the paranoia that comes with being successful enough to spring out of the ghetto. Genuinely insightful and poignant shit from all of Scarface, Bushwick Bill, and Willie D. Scarface's verse is amazing. Tying as it does his stress he ties the stress of being killed to his obligations of being a new father. And just, there's a lot more at stake than there used to be. And so are the Roosters going to come home to haunt him? Or is he going to end up reaping what he sows? And it's just, in some ways, it's like you said, it's an absolutely absorbing listen.
Yeah, for sure. All right, now we go to the month of August. Okay, we're almost done, folks. And we are going to start in college radio. And we're starting with Ned's Atomic Dustbin with Gray Cell Green. The germ of shoegaze didn't infect all British bands during this time, and Ned's rock with a forcefulness and melodicism that, if you listen carefully, predates the Britpop sound to come a few years later. This is one of their best singles. Chris?
Yeah, quirky English rock, and more power to these guys. They cranked out bangers for a few years back then.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's kind of like primordial Britpop.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure. Yeah. Next, Teenage Fan Club with Star Sign. In the U.S., Teenage Fan Club will always be the answer to the trivia question. What band did Spin Magazine give their 1991 Album of the Year award to rather than Nirvana? The fact is, even if their 91 album, Bandwagon-esque, isn't as essential or seminal as Nevermind, it is a fantastic album that brought back awareness in rock circles to the greatness of 1970s cult power pop band Big Starr. This song and single from this Scottish band is a feverish pop rush for sure. For the record, Kurt Cobain was a huge Teenage Fan Club fan. Chris?
Well, yeah, I could see why. I mean, this song is interesting because it has this like really weird shoegazer intro,
Yeah.
and then segues into just really dreamy power pop. And you know, these guys they just wrote great songs routinely and performed them with a lot of verve.
Yeah.
And you know, on a side note, a lot of good shit coming out of Scotland
Yes.
during this era.
Sure. Them
Between
and Primal Scream.
Yeah, and some other stuff that, you know, was a little bit more obscure. But yeah, Scotland was fertile in the early 90s.
For sure. Next,
And let's stay in Scotland.
more Scotland, Primal Scream with Don't Fight It, Feel It. This drugged out dance club, or the drugged out dance club vibes of the Scream's Screamadelica album produced another kick-ass single, this time the techno rock of this classic song, containing one of the best bass lines ever. Imagine EMF or Jesus Jones injected with heavy doses of pure MDMA. Chris?
Yeah, this is some wacky, dancey shit from this band that I've pretty much labeled as acid gospel.
Yeah.
Nasty ass groove, but also really gorgeous female vocals. These guys were definitely in their feels and in a very unique zone when they recorded Screamadelica, and the world benefited from it greatly. The first winner of the Mercury Prize, by the way, Screamadelica.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, now we go straight to hip hop radio. And Chris, I got a question.
Yeah, what's
Chris,
that?
you there?
Yeah, what's that?
My question. Are you down with OPP?
Yeah, you know me.
That's right. Naughty by Nature, OPP. Well, I hope you're down with it because most everyone else was in the fall of 91. One of the greatest one-hit wonders in hip-hop history, Naughty by Nature produced a song so infectious that even soccer moms around the country were down with whatever these guys were selling. Chris?
Yeah, I'm happily married now, so my days of being obsessed with other people's pussy are pretty much behind me. Best Jackson 5 sample ever, man.
Yeah.
Using ABC to craft a hip-hop ode to cheating on your better half was a really awesome touch. And then Tretch, who was their lead rapper, was just super-duper charismatic as a performer. Yeah. This song is just pure fun. He's one of the more underrated rappers of all time, I think.
Mm.
Yeah, that guy was really, really good.
Speaking of great rappers, next, Ice Cube with Steady Mobbin'. For all his gifts as a rapper and a lyricist and storyteller of vivid detail regarding inner city black life, Ice Cube has never failed in his ability to line up with producers whose beats keep his music bouncing and funky as hell. This is one of his best and most memorable singles. Chris?
Yeah. Ice Cube's first 3 albums are all great.
Yeah.
And that certificate may actually hit the hardest in terms of its themes and where it went and how brutal it could be. This song is the second hardest hitting song on the record. Just awesomely funky and features an aggressive as hell, visually evocative vocal performances from Cube. It's basically, the beat is basically a mashup of 70s funk samples. You would think this is the Bomb Squad, who produced most of America's Most Wanted, his first solo album. But it's actually from a bunch of dudes named the Boogeymen, which is just a great name for a hip hop track. Just as a not trivia, but something that's kind of fascinating, the B-side to this single was No Vaseline.
Oh, the diss track. Yeah.
Absolutely vicious and graphically homophobic diss track aimed towards Eazy-E and NWA's manager, Jerry Heller. It's so breathtaking in its sheer nastiness, to the point it's amazing he didn't get sued.
Yeah, I think Jerry Heller wanted to, but Eazy-E said, no. Well, we'll solve this hip-hop style. So Eazy-E did another diss track to answer back, Ice Cube.
Yeah, and the diss tracks between that. Eazy-E's best diss track was the one he did on Dr. Dre with Real Motherfucking G's.
Yeah.
That shit was hilarious.
All right, next, Gangstar with the song Step in the Arena. One of the greatest features of DJ Premier's productions is the amazing bass lines that he always infused his beats with. And the bass line on this track is just sick. A jazzy multi-note thing that vibrates up and down the whole track. Despite trends in hip-hop pushing the genre to more elaborate productions and, in some cases, dumbed-down lyrics, Gangstar always kept their shit NYC minimal, with Guru's crisp flow spitting out streetwise philosophical nuggets. Chris?
Yeah, this song's amazing. This is probably my favorite song on this whole list. Wow. Like you said, incredible minimalist beat from Primo, and then Guru just riding it just masterfully. And so not only do you have the bass line, but you have that twisting weird little horn sample on the chorus, which is just really, really striking. And so it's just this absorbing, engaging, fun-ass song. But again, it's basically Guru battle rapping, but doing it in such an endearing way. That dude had edge. He was so smooth, but he was also edgy as fuck.
Sure. Totally.
Yeah.
All right, now we move the radio dial to the smoother, more tranquil waters of top 40 pop radio. And we've got Boys to Men with It's So Hard to Say Goodbye to Yesterday. This is a cover of an old Motown song originally sung by G.C. Cameron that appeared on the soundtrack to the 1975 coming-of-age in the hood movie Cooley High. The Boys took it to the top of the charts with a heart-wrenching a cappella version, something akin to mournful doo-wop. Chris?
Yeah, like I said, just beautiful, mournful ballad. Works both as a breakup song and as a funeral dirge. Yeah. Just really timeless shit. Like I said, Motown Philly was the business card song that got Boyz II Men to the dance. But this is the song that truly sold them as like modern doo-wop superheroes. Yeah. Just extraordinary vocal abilities. They all were individually talented, but when they put together those 4-part harmonies, it's just fucking jaw-dropping. Timeless shit.
Next, Karen White with Romantic. Meh. Generic cliche pop soul with a by now rote and predictable New Jack rhythm track. Chris?
Disagree on that. So this is Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis's less successful muse. Terry Lewis ended up marrying Karen White, but Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis are one of the best production duos of all time. Obviously Janet Jackson and Rhythm Nation, 1814 is probably, that's a masterpiece. But, and Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, they go back to the time with Morris Day. And so, just really great Minneapolis funk, really up-tempo R&B. And so, again, this is a really good side hustle. I mean, Romantic was a chart topper. I mean, it went to number 1. And to me, it's a funky and infectious electro pop nugget. These basically Jam and Lewis and White wrote some really good shit together. So I actually like this song a lot more than you do.
Well, the next song is I surprisingly like. Mariah Carey, Emotions. Mariah's back with another slice of dainty, slightly EDM-ish pop soul, this time produced by the C+C Music Factory crew. Mariah, again, co-writes this, and she co-writes it with the producers on this one, and it's easily her best song to date. Chris?
Yeah, this is a really great song. It's the lead song of her second album. And like you said, it's a collaboration with Clavelis and Cole. And just an incredible R&B song, sexy and sultry, but also genuinely joyous. And Carey, like I said, she was a really good songwriter, but that voice was just amazing. The end of this song, like those really high ass falsetto notes.
Yeah.
Basically, these are like glass shattering, like almost opera notes that she hits at the end of the song. She's just an amazingly talented performer, and like you said, I think this is one of her best songs overall.
Yeah. And finally, we end the month of August with a veteran, Aaron Neville, with "Everyone Plays the Fool." This is a cover of a 1972 song by R&B group The Main Ingredient, and Neville, with that sweet, lovely falsetto of his, nails it, backed by a sweetly lilting reggae beat. Chris?
Yeah, the funny thing is that Neville's version is considered the definitive version of Everyone Plays the Fool, but the Main Ingredients version, or the original, was more successful. The Main Ingredient hit number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100, and Neville only hit number 8. But no matter, this is Aaron Neville at his lover man best. New Orleans' finest crooner. Dude had an amazingly expressive voice, amazing depth of feeling in his interpretation and readings of lyrics. And so this is Neville in very, very fine form.
And now finally, we've arrived, the month of September, our last month. Nirvana and the rest of the grunge movement is right around the corner, but it hasn't quite hit yet. So what's on radio and all the formats at the beginning of September? Well, let's start with R&B and hip hop. Okay, the R&B hip hop radio. And we'll start with Prince, with Cream, the song you named your dog after, right, Chris?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
Prince hit number 1 on the Billboard pop chart and the top 10 in several countries around the world with this infectious piece of strutting pop soul. When Prince decided he wanted to get in a laid-back, mid-tempo groove, he did it better than practically anyone else. And the cream that he's talking about, that's getting on top, doesn't take a genius to figure out what he's talking about.
Yeah,
Chris?
I was going to say that. Yeah, it's my kind of cream. For the record, by the way, the Houston Humane Society gave Cream her name,
Okay.
and we thought that was so genius we kept it. Anyway, another sex romp from Prince and the New Power Generation. This one is more of a soulful rocker than a funk orgy like Get Off was. That song was about fucking like rabbits. This song is about a gentler form of fucking. And, but really cool song. And, really great production job by Prince.
Next, MC Hammer with Too Legit to Quit. Hammer conquered the world with his album Please Hammer, Don't Hurt 'Em from the previous year. For his widely awaited follow-up, Hammer actually answers back with one of his best singles, an amalgam of swanky New Jack Swing, vintage hip-hop swagger, and an infectious vocal melody hook. Chris?
Yeah, super, super fun song from Hammer.
Yeah.
Just harmlessly fun dance hip-hop. Simple concept and a simple beat, but ridiculously freaking catchy. To this day, the whole "too legit to quit" is part of the popular culture that even more so than "you can't touch this."
Yeah, probably.
In some ways. So yeah, Hammer, like I said, Hammer knew how to write a pop hit. He wasn't the hardest rapper in the world, but he knew how to write pop hits.
He sure did. Next, Public Enemy with Can't Trust It. P.E.'s album of this year, Apocalypse 91, The Enemy Strikes Back, pales in comparison to the previous 2 masterpieces the group produced. But guess what? So does everyone else's albums during this period.
Well, yeah.
This just means P.E. deliver another heavy-hitting slab of revolutionary socio-political commentary and black empowerment. One of the greatest hip-hop groups of all time, still in top form. Chris?
Yeah, this is P.E.'s last great single. Not as adventurous at this point because legally they couldn't be. The Bomb Squad couldn't afford all the samples. The music business had caught up with monetizing and licensing samples. And so, so they literally couldn't do what they did on Fear of a Black Planet, and it takes nation of millions to hold us back. So, this is simpler musically, but it's still mightily aggressive and polemical. Killer horn loop drives, just hard smacking drum snares, just really steal the show. And it proves that PE was more akin to a rock band than a hip hop group, because no one then and since has had their energy and earned sense of indignation, which is way, way, way palpable on this song. It goes back to the roots of being heavily abused slaves that came over in ships. Makes that point.
Yeah. Next, Tupac Shakur with Trapped. The legend of Tupac begins here with his debut single off his debut album. Before he became known for his gangster affiliations, Tupac was actually a very socially conscious rapper, or at least a socially conscious rapper with the intensity of a gangster rapper. Here he lambasts police brutality and the overall plight of inner city black people in his inimitable, poetic, and insightful way, with a slinky, fluid beat guiding him along. Chris?
Yeah, this is Tupac, like you said, in his early consciousness phase as a rapper. And again, police brutality, he goes as deep into the psychological damage that it causes as anyone ever did. Not a huge fan of this song musically, but it is early proof that Tupac, yeah, but it's early proof that Tupac was the single greatest lyricist and writer in the history of hip hop.
Yeah, maybe.
A lot of the ways that rappers express themselves, a lot of what have become cliches, feel me and all that kind of stuff, started with Tupac. And so he was just brilliant. And so, this is just a beautifully intense commentary song from Tupac. And so, again, never much cared for Tupac's music, but his lyrics and his poeticism, if that's a word, is just incredible.
Next, A Tribe Called Quest with Check the Rhyme. The lead single off what the world would soon know to be one of the single greatest albums of all time. Check the Rhyme resonates with the laid-back, jazzy groove of the low-end theory, with fifes and Q-tips flows taking turns and intertwining with each other in a kind of blissful grace. Chris?
You on point, Tip? Yes, I am. Built on a sample of the average white band's "Love Your Life." That's where the horn part and the sort of the chorusy type of thing comes from. This was Phife Dawg at his finest. And it was his finest moment as a Tribe member. Just really smooth and in the pocket on this song. He just rides that jazzy little beat like a master. So, R.I.P. Phife, 5 foot tall, but he was a real lover, man, and a really clever rapper. And so this is really a showcase for him.
Right. And now we switch over to rock radio for a bit. And we're going to go with Bryan Adams with Can't Stop This Thing We Started. How do you follow up Everything I Do It For You, one of the biggest hit songs in the world and a certifiable, timeless ballad standard? By leaning more into pop rock, as Adams does here. As it is, it's pretty mundane stuff that already oddly sounds like an outdated 1980s production. Chris?
Yeah. Yep. Sounds like Bryan Adams again. Big, huge arena rock ready song about love and romance and other lovey-dovey stuff. Basically, this was the same shit he was doing in 1984, but it made him bank for years and years and years and years and years. There you go.
Pretty much. Next, Tom Petty with Into the Great Wide Open. The title track to Petty's album of this year is another timelessly classic single in his rich catalog. Here, he takes the narrative storytelling he did so well on Free Fallin' and extends it to a story of a young musician who achieves his rock star dreams, only to find it all dissolve as quickly as it came. No one could do folk-derived rock and roll with a bleeding heart like Petty in his prime. Chris?
Yeah, one of my favorite guitar performances from Mike Campbell is on this song. Just really smoking slide guitar work that weaves through the song. There's also some really beautiful electric piano work from Benmont Tench mixed in. And yet another masterfully catchy rock song from Petty and crisp as hell rock production from Jeff Lynne. Fun video, too, if you remember, starring Johnny Depp and Faye Dunaway. Yeah, sure. So good stuff.
And then we're going to take a little swing to our final stop at the college radio station. And we're going to see, who do we have here? Oh, yeah. Chris, your favorite singer, Morrissey.
Yeah.
With his song, My Love Life. While this was only a moderate hit for him compared to the string of hits he had from the late 1980s through the mid-1990s in the UK, this is nonetheless one of his best solo songs. Morrissey's penchant for self-pity and self-absorption can easily cross over to a cartoonish and indulgent. But when he hits the moderate sweet spot of his suffering, a song can become a soaring slice of jangle pop beauty. Chris?
Meh. Just as boring and awful as I remember it. I still have a hard time to this day taking Morrissey seriously. I have a serious mental block. I've come around to the Smiths, but Morrissey solo stuff is just so mopey, dopey, whiny. The dude kind of wrote monuments to his emotional instability and rarely made them compelling. Certainly doesn't here. Like I said, meh.
My love life. All right. Now we're going to switch over to rock radio, and we're going to end this whole thing on rock radio we're going to continue with the Cult, Wild Hearted Son. The Cult became huge with their 1989 album Sonic Temple and its clutch of hit singles. They never reached those heights again, but they certainly tried their best with this cracking piece of crunchy, riff-heavy arena rock. Chris?
Yeah, Ian Astbury and friends just rock consistently. Grandiose, kick-ass metal. And this song is gnarly as shit. Just soaring and tuneful, but just blasts off into the stratosphere. And then Astbury, had like one of the best set of pipes in metal.
Yeah.
He wasn't screamy at all. He just had this, there's a reason he was picked to be Jim Morrison on the Doors reunion.
Yeah. When they revitalized the Doors briefly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Next, Ozzy Osbourne with No More Tears. One of the most successful singles of Ozzy's career. Even a solo Ozzy skeptic like me has to give the man credit for crafting, with some help of course, a stately, stomping metal classic. Chris?
Pop Ozzy.
Yeah.
Groovy bass line, gothic organs, raunchy guitar licks, and one hell of a slow-burning pop metal song. This song was written and recorded and mixed with the prop charts squarely in mind.
Yeah.
Interesting to note that it was co-written by bassist Mike Inez, who I don't think ended up performing on the song for a good reason, because he got hired by Alice in Chains,
right?
To replace the first bassist, and so he really. Him and Zakk Wylde come up with something really, really good here for Ozzy. And then the middle of the song kind of comes out of nowhere. It's like this tribute to Sgt. Pepper era Beatles.
Yeah, with the bridge in the middle. Yeah.
Yeah, which then gets an oddly beautiful solo from Wylde layered on top of it before they return to the main show. So yeah, Pop Ozzy, just great use of Ozzy's voice and mystique to craft a kick-ass pop metal song.
All right. Next, Extreme with Wholehearted. After the monstrous success of More Than Words, Extreme decided to play it safe and continue the acoustic route, this time with a more up-tempo song. This is actually much better than the vapid, childishly dumb and maudlin More Than Words. It actually kind of grooves and has some soul to it. Chris?
Yeah, it's actually from the same album as More Than Words.
It is.
Porno Graffiti,
yeah,
and another acoustic-driven metal tune, another pretty melody from Gary Cherone. These guys were really good at writing light, sweet metal for chicks.
Yeah, it's basically what they were, right?
Yep.
All right. Next, Skid Row with Slave to the Grind. They really try to be Metallica with this song's thrash metal groove, but it's ruined as soon as Sebastian Bach opens his mouth to sing. Just because someone has a vocal range doesn't mean they can sing with taste, judiciousness, and style. It's too bad because there's a decent song here waiting to come out. Chris?
Yeah, this was the heaviest, darkest, and most rocking thing that Skid Row ever did by far. This is basically like Anthrax-inspired speed metal.
Yeah.
You remember Anthrax was from Jersey. Again, credit these guys from understanding that the end may be near for pop metal. Clearly, they took the parodies and mean reviews of 18 and Life and I Remember You to heart and wanted to show that they could maybe possibly rock balls, albeit in a kind of dumb way.
Next, Metallica with The Unforgiven. James Hetfield has written many lyrics throughout his career about how awful he thinks he is and how ashamed he is of himself. This song, however, is one of the most convincing and beautifully melodic, something one would never have attributed to the band just a few years earlier. Musically, it splits the difference between beautiful, haunting acoustic balladry and crushing, heavy-ass groove metal. Definitely one of the highlights of many on a nearly flawless album. Chris?
Yeah, this song is proof that heavy metal could be beautiful.
Yeah.
Track really is gorgeous and engrossing. A really heartfelt performance by the group, and just incredible guitar playing from both Hetfield and Hammett, especially from Hetfield. That dude is probably the best heavy metal rhythm guitarist of all time.
Yep.
If it ain't him, it's Malcolm Young. Just really textured production job and mix job from Bob Rock here as well.
And we end not just the month of September, but this entire rundown of the year in music, in radio in 1991, right before grunge exploded. We end it with Guns N' Roses' Don't Cry. It's oddly fitting that the last song in our rundown of songs representing the pre-grunge musical landscape of 1991 is by a band that Kurt Cobain despised. And it's easy to despise them if this is the song one is subjected to 5 times a day on rock radio, as this was back in the fall of 91. Only the heavy guitars and Slash's solo disguise this song from what it really is, and that's cheesy Asian pop group karaoke with some terribly maudlin, trite lyrics. One of many overwrought ballads on 2 albums of too many of them. Chris?
On which Axl Rose introduces the world to Shannon Hoon.
Of Blind Melon, yeah.
Of Blind Melon. They were buddies. They were from the same town in Indiana. And Hoon takes the high part on the 2-part harmonies of this classic metal power ballad. To me, I like this song. It just has a dreamy, almost ethereal quality to it and a slow-burning intensity. And like you said, it gets an uplift from Slash's lyrical. He was almost a lyrical lead guitar player. A lot of his stuff was both powerful and beautiful.
Yeah.
And he lends it. And, and like you said, it is kind of a maudlin song, but Slash does lift it out of the basement, the bargain basement. And really, this is the best song that we could have possibly used to end this episode. Because this was the biggest bonanza on MTV and the hottest rock song in the world on September 23rd, 1991, otherwise known as the day before Nirvana released Nevermind and changed everything.
Yeah. So
Yep.
There we go, folks. That is a glimpse of what the music landscape in 1991 was before the grunge explosion.
Yeah, and for the record, folks, we just covered 98 fucking songs. And
you all better listen to this episode.
Yeah, I was going to say, which means each of us had to script ourselves for 98 songs. So this was kind of like the baton march of podcast preparation, but by gum, we did it. And I think we successfully nailed this year. We left no stone unturned.
Yeah.
This really was about as comprehensive an overview of the pre-grunge sunset as you're gonna get in podcast land. So thank you, folks, for sticking with us. Hopefully you learned a lot. We added a few here and there, music samples here, but all of this will be on probably our grandest Spotify playlist to date.
All these songs, basically.
Yeah. The Curve song is the only song on this whole thing that's not available on Spotify.
Weird.
So you'll have to take a segue to YouTube to listen to that Curve song. And by the way, on that Spotify playlist, we always have a link to our Spotify playlist in the episode description of our episodes that you can find on whichever platform you're using to access your podcasts. You know, there's Apple, there's Amazon, there's Stitcher, there's a few other great ones out there. So check that playlist out and really enjoy all of this music. You can also join our fabulous Facebook Curmudgeonly community, which, you know, Art really keeps us in some songs and some great YouTube live videos and a lot of interesting stuff. And it's pretty lively. I probably will drop Step in the Arena as a link on that page before we publish this episode. So go find that there. And that's at Curmudgeon. It's facebook.com/groups/Curmudgeon Rock. It's invite only, but chances are we'll let you in. And finally, we'd love to have some fan mail, especially even folks just marveling the fact that we just covered 98 fucking songs. So send us some fan mail at curmudgeonrock@gmail.com. And so with that, folks, have a great couple of weeks, and hey, yo, dig it.